I'd like to call the meeting to order. A reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded by Bernardston-Northfield Community Television for future broadcast on your local cable channel. This meeting may also be streamed live on their Facebook page when able. The first order of business is to elect a chairperson for the school committee. So we're looking for nominations. Sharon.
I'd like to nominate Sue O'Reilly McCray as the school committee chair.
I'll second that.
Okay. We're going to do a roll call, so we need vote. So if you just go around, state your name, and yes, no, or abstain from the vote. And the majority will elect the chair. So why don't we start down?
Robin Latoile, I'll say yes.
Mike Townsley, yes.
Kristen Gonzalez, yes.
David Young, yes.
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Jessica Marshall, yes.
Sharon Fontaine, yes.
Yes. Karen O'Neill, yes. Abby Pratt, yes.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
stepping
Yeah.
up, Sue.
Pat?
Yes, thank you.
And thank you for all your years.
Do you have another nomination?
Well, now Sue, Sue is going to preside and call for the election of the vice chair. Come off the line.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to move on to nominating the vice chair. So, Sharon?
I'd like to nominate Pat Shearer as the vice chair of this committee.
So now we're going to do a roll call vote for that.
We have to have a second.
Second and
Second
Are there any,
from
Karen
Karen.
O'Neill.
Okay.
are there any other nominations?
Do we vote, and then if it's not a majority, we entertain other nominations?
You can ask for other nominations now and then
Okay.
vote.
Abby
All
Pratt.
right. Other
Yes, she
people
did a lot.
wanting to, what, Sharon?
I was going to vote, are we voting?
John invited me to see if there were other people that were not.
You get all the
wanting to
nominations
nominate
first and then
him.
vote.
Oh, okay.
Jean?
I nominate Kristen Gonzalez.
Okay. Two people.
Is there a
Is there
second?
a second for that nomination?
Second.
Okay. All right, so do we vote
So-
on them one at a time?
Yeah, you vote on them one at a time and the majority takes.
Okay.
Can we have
so-
some campaign speeches?
So,
We
so
haven't-
we vote in the order that they were nominated?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so this will be a roll call vote for Pat Shearer nominated for vice chair of the committee. Why don't we start over here this time? Abby?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Mhm.
Sharon Fontaine, yes.
Sue O'Reilly McCray, yes. Jessica Marshall, yes.
Jeannie Milton, no.
David Young, yes.
Kristen Gonzalez, yes.
Mike Townsley, yes.
Robin Latoile, no.
Okay, so that's a majority of the committee. All right,
Thank you.
so Pat is our vice chair.
Thank you much.
Pat for accepting. Okay, I just want to say something. We've all been through quite a ride in the last few years, and I'm happy to be with you all tonight, happy to be in this chair, happy to be at the beginning of a new time for our district. I know we have a lot of difficult decisions ahead. I know we can do that well. I want to say that I know that there was a lot of concern about the leadership of this committee as we were going through our difficult times. And I just want people to know that I found Pat to be very collaborative, very responsive. We were just in a very, very difficult situation. I don't know who could have done a better job with that. So that said, I'm happy to take on this role. I'm very happy that Pat will be there for me. You know, I've only been in this position for a year and a half. So I need someone that knows the ropes and knows the whole district the way that Pat does. So I feel very grateful for her willingness to be the vice chair.
And I have something I would like to say also.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, the school committee put ourselves in a situation where to save money, we hired a superintendent to fill 2 jobs. We were unable to monitor the financial situation even after many attempts. Our auditors were also unable to obtain the information required. Our administrator, through design or incompetence, did not provide us with the information that we needed to form an adequate budget. In the fall of 17, I alerted the state officials, Mary Jane Handy, Jay Sullivan, and Glenn Kuchar, and the Dupre Legal Counsel, and asked for help. In spring of 18, more help from our auditors and the above-mentioned state officials were required. That brings us to where we are today. We are on a path to a brighter future, and as Sue said, I think it's happening right now. I appreciate all the support and help that I've received from our member towns over the many years of my chairmanship. I think that without the help of them, our district wouldn't be where we are today. I mean, we heard last month, how well we were doing educationally, and I think we need to keep that. But even in the days when the towns don't have any more money than we do from the state, they keep supporting us. So I think we need to really thank the town officials for all of that. So thank you. That's it. Don't do the misbalance.
No, she's the document, all the documents.
All right, so at this point, we'll hear citizens' concerns. If anyone needs to address the committee, do you want to come up, Bob?
I have two concerns. The very first one is we have to do something about being able to hear you people. We meet in Northfield, we meet in Bernardston, we meet in Leiden and Warwick. We can never hear. It is our right as citizens to be able to hear the conversations. How we're going to do this, I don't know, Jonathan. This is for TV, not for us. Okay, the second thing I'd like to do is, I'm really happy to see that student supplies are on the list of expenditures, but could you please specify a little bit in more detail what the student supplies are? Okay? All I know is that I have 4 grandsons that come to this school, and I've talked to other people, and coming in here August something, about $100 a piece was spent on paper, pencils, notebooks, et cetera, et cetera. So these student expenses can't be paper and pencils and stuff like that. So I mean, I'd be interested, are they chemistry lab books? Are they math worksheets? Are they just something like that to let the people know what they are? Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bob, before we move on, can I just clarify your comment? Are you concerned about the amount that students are spending at the start of the school year, as well as what are we buying?
Well, I would say as a parent or as a grandparent, the school can certainly buy pencils cheaper than we can buy pencils. I don't care where we buy them. And certainly the school can buy paper. So I don't know whether we can work something out with the town that, you know, a little bit extra gets spent on supplies. I am concerned with that.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify your concern. All right.
Sue?
Karen?
In looking over some of the financial information that Tanya furnished us with, it's wonderful to see, but I actually had a similar question as Bob did. I see student expenses for supplies, but I really didn't know exactly what was spent and where. So I'd like to see a breakdown of that if we could.
David?
I believe we get that detail in accounts payable or something, if you want to dive into the weeds.
Really, from each school, we get that?
It's actually, because it's an invoice report, right?
Yeah, so
would-
student supplies
The end of the
encompasses math-specific supplies, science-specific supplies, ELA-specific supplies that aren't required to be furnished by the parent. So if there's a project they're doing or chemistry lab supplies and stuff like that, that is what those are for. They're just combined in student supplies as a whole when you're looking at our financial report, because that is the categories in which the school committee has recommended the information be given out. But if you look at the full expenditure report, you'll see separate line items for different categories of supplies in the expenditure report. And if you want to look at those, if you have any more questions, I can certainly furnish further detail beyond the line item information.
I just like to say student supplies, see, art supplies, science supplies, something of that nature.
And that's how they are broken out, but they're lump summed into student supplies in the categorical report that's provided.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't those mostly be purchased on the POs?
Yes.
So they would all be detailed in this report?
They would be detailed in the invoice report, but they're also on the expenditure report as
Right.
well, listed out by.
Well, everything that's on this
account.
report is also on this report
Right.
somewhere.
Well, that is just tonight's purchase
Right.
order payable. The expenditure report is everything that's happened or is encumbered. So the
Right.
expenditure report gives you a full listing of our accounts.
But this is supplied monthly,
Yeah.
so it's on the record.
So does someone like Bob have access to that kind of report? Or no?
They're in the packets that they get at the school committee meeting.
The accounts payable?
They're,
This is always in our packet.
Okay. So, Bob, do you hear what people are saying, that each itemized expenditure is in the accounts payable report? It's not organized necessarily, perhaps, in the way that would be easy to find?
Well, it would, the numbers would match up.
Right, right. I know. But if you're a citizen paging through that, it's very.
so the school committee gets the accounts payable report to sign off on, but everyone else gets a school committee expenditure report. And within each school, it's broken out by math supplies, general student supplies, ELA, science, etc. So that's on the expenditure report is probably a better way to get a summary
Okay.
for that information.
Okay. Do you guys want to move closer? Can they move
Well,
closer
I
without blocking the
apologize, I've
TV?
not been feeling well, so I
Yeah,
can't.
she's got a cold.
Do these work? Just for the.
All right, any other citizens' concerns at this point? Nope? Okay. School committee membership update and the minutes are next. And I know, Jean, you're waiting for us to move your item up the, there you are. So, how much time do you want to be moved up? Like, can you go through a few of these, or should we move? Yeah? Okay. All right. So we have the minutes for September 27th. So the minutes for September 27th had red comments at the beginning, if you saw them online. This was the 5 o'clock meeting before the MASC budget training that we squeezed in because the previous school committee meeting went to 11 o'clock. This was the meeting where we were supposed to approve John's superintendent goals, but we didn't have a quorum. So we tabled it and we dealt with it in October in Warwick. So that's what happened. That's what I suspected. Yeah. And the notes for the budget training are here, but it wasn't actually a quorum, so it wasn't actually a school committee meeting, right?
Well, it was a training. It was
was a
posted as a
training.
training,
Mhm.
so, and I was asked to take the minutes.
Yeah, and you
so-
took, and the minutes are fabulous to have, thank you.
I move we consider the minutes and make them part of our.
Of the record, the public record.
record.
Okay, all right. Is that a motion?
That was a
Needs a
motion.
second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of having the September 27th record of the meetings in our public record as minutes? Aye. Okay. All right, then we have the October minutes from when we were up in Warwick.
David, I didn't see your note until later, so I couldn't.
Did you have an edit for people to
Yeah,
consider?
Well, I think we should get Jessica's name right.
Yeah. Okay.
Start calling.
It's hard, I was,
No.
So, in the very beginning, under call to order number 1, it says Janice Marshall. It should be Jessica,
with 2 L's.
2 L's. Marshall. Yeah. Thanks.
And then you had a question about the motion on the
Well,
the gifts?
it had more to do with the format. I did not attend the meeting, so I carefully read the minutes, and I saw that I saw a discussion of a gift from Coca-Cola, and the paragraph that had to do with Coca-Cola did not have any reference. So the second thing, which had a heading of what the other gift was, had a motion to accept both. I'd like to just set that apart, because I wrote an email, that said, as soon as I saw that, said, committee needs to vote, and then it kept on going. So it just makes the record better.
So there was one motion, so I'll
Just put a
clarify
hard
that
carriage
to
return
accept
after.
the gifts, the enormous gifts.
Tell us what page we're on.
Page 5.
Page 5.
Okay, so I'll clarify that in the minutes.
Okay. So where it says Chromebooks donation and Coca-Cola donation?
Yeah, but on the motion part, to be more clear that it's 2 separate donations, that's what you're looking for, right? Okay.
And that we accepted both.
Yes.
I move the approval of these minutes with those changes.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
No,
That's everybody.
Did everybody, is that all in
Yep.
favor?
All in favor, yeah. Okay. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to have a full table. It's just great. How's it feel? I could hardly breathe at the table the first time I was at the table.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, welcome. Thanks for showing up. I know a lot of you were showing up for a long time before tonight. So thank you for caring about our district and for being here. Welcome. All right. We've already done the next one, right? We did that first. Okay.
Excuse me. I'm looking at minutes from,
Those are part of a discussion of the SRO.
All right,
I know it's
thank you.
confusing, yeah.
Okay,
There's a
thank
bunch
you.
of minutes at the back that are with the SRO. and
Okay,
all those-
thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah. Yep. So, I'm wondering if this would be a good time to move people up. What do you think?
Yeah.
This time? Okay. So Jean, we're going to move the school improvement plan discussion up to now. If you're up for that? Right? Yeah? So we have to vote on a change of order, right?
Yep.
So the proposal is to,
Make a motion that we move the new business out of order now.
although, a second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
Can you tell me where we otherwise would be on the agenda?
We are here, we're about to talk about subcommittee assignments.
Okay, we're inserting this in
And we're
front of that.
inserting this in front of all that, the financial reporting and stuff.
There's,
John, David.
Yeah.
Tanya requested that we move the auditors before the financial report.
Okay, we'll make that decision next. We'll do new business.
Did we have a vote on the new business?
Yeah, everybody voted to move it up.
Yeah, keep up.
Okay, so new business is now coming right after, well,
elect.
number 4 we did first, so
Yes, we had to.
4 is done.
just put it before subcommittee assignments.
Or something.
Okay, come on up, everybody.
Is there a room going on?
Oh, I haven't even started it.
Are they going to send you
So this is item 2 we're discussing next?
It is
School improvement plan, correct?
item 11, number 2.
11? Yep. superintendent.
That's what I was wondering. What we had wasn't
A little bit of a meltdown.
school improvement plan we do.
Well, thank you all for accommodating us,
Oh.
meeting us a little earlier. As you can
Excuse me,
see,
can
we're
I-
quite the team, and I was hoping
Wrong
to get
names.
people moving on their way. So I'd just like to introduce some of the representatives from our school council. So this is Ella Poti, who you know, who's a junior this year in our school, and Emily Kester, who's been on the school council for the last year, right? That was your first year. And then Kevin Mortensen and Valerie Fontaine, who are both members of the school council and both teachers in our building. And so we're here tonight to present to you, for hopefully your approval, our school improvement plan for 2018 to 2021. Three-year plan that conforms to DESE's new guidance that was issued in the spring of 2016 on the development of school improvement plans. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the process, and then my colleagues here are going to talk about each of the four goals very briefly. So we began this process at the end of 2016 in relationship to the school committee's request that we reconsider and check back in with our school faculty about the previous school improvement plan that we had submitted that December. So in the spring of 2016, we had a discussion as a faculty of potential goals, and we did a survey of all faculty to have them give input on what they felt were worthy goals for the school. And the school council is the body that's by law supposed to create the school improvement plan. So we took that input from the faculty, and last year we began with that input and put together the four goals that you'll see tonight. Then after we had created our goals, we went back to the faculty last spring, and we had the faculty contribute to the various strategic initiatives that you see in the plan. We had a big brainstorming session over the course of a couple different faculty meetings. We took all that information back as a school council, massaged it, talked about it, and came up with the strategic initiatives that are more or less in this plan tonight. Then after we had drafted the complete plan, at the beginning of this school year, we took the full plan back to the faculty, asked for final input, questions, etc. And then Kevin and I, and Val was supposed to be there, she had a sick kid that day, but so Kevin and I ended up meeting to take that final bit of input and revise our plan once more, and that's the plan we bring to you tonight. So I think Val's first, right, to talk about goal one?
So I have goal number one. And so goal number one is to provide curricular opportunities, effective instruction in heterogeneous classrooms, and a system of tiered support so that 90% of our students meet grade level and college readiness academic benchmarks. And so a lot of the sort of strategic initiatives are things that we already do, but we want to improve on or hope we can improve on. Others are things that we know we kind of do, but we want to do better. And so we've listed those below. So the first strategic initiative is to align the curriculum with state standards in literacy, math, science, and digital technology. And the outcome of that would be all relevant courses will have curriculum maps that articulate their alignment with current state standards in literacy, math, science, and/or digital literacy. The next would be to expand and promote early college opportunities such as advanced placement courses and dual enrollment at GCC. And the outcome of that would be to increase by 20% the proportion of students who graduate with at least one AP in early college experience. And that's something I know some of our students who have done are really happy with. You know, they leave with already one class under their belts. The third initiative is to promote STEAM education across the curriculum. The outcome of that being 90% of classes will have STEAM units, lessons, or connections. Again, that's something that we already do, but we've had some professional development over the last couple of years and gotten really excited about different ways that we can implement it even further. STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Maybe what STEAM stands for. Thank you. The next initiative is to embed PVRS lifelong learning expectations in all courses and all curriculum areas. And the outcome of that would be to have one portfolio entry per course per semester, per student. So our seniors, when they graduate, if you haven't ever had the chance to see, it's wonderful. They do portfolio presentations. They put together bits and pieces of their growth throughout the years to present. And so just continuing to expand that and encourage that is truly wonderful.
Do you want people to ask questions as you're going along, or do you just
Sure.
want to? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
if you guys have questions, you can totally
Okay,
ask.
yep. David?
I wonder if I'm the only school committee member that doesn't understand what a portfolio entry is.
A portfolio entry, so the students throughout their years at Pioneer have a chance to put some of the work they've done into this portfolio that
Yeah, I've
they'll
attended
present.
them, I don't know what an entry is.
Oh, so the products that they show are chosen from their overall portfolio. So during their senior year, they have this collection of work. So a portfolio is just a collection of work.
I understand that, but what's an entry?
It could be an assignment, it could be an essay,
Like when you
it could be art
upload
project.
something to your portfolio, is it a digital
It-
record?
It's not your whole
Yes.
portfolio.
Right,
It's something that
right,
goes,
right. It's a
that gets
piece
put
of
in.
One of the items.
Yeah, so
that
it's
portion.
one of the items,
All
yeah.
right.
Could be an essay, art project, anything. Yes.
Valerie, could we go back to the first outcome, and could you explain why there's an or before digital literacy? Is it meant to be science or, perhaps?
I believe it says and or because some of the standards already include the digital literacy piece. So for example, the ELA standards, part of that is already built in to the standards, having kids be able to present their work in a professional way using technology. And so that one wouldn't really need a separate digital literacy standard.
I see,
So I
thank
think
you.
and or. Yep.
And the PVRS lifelong learning expectations, that's all portfolio language or a part of the portfolio?
Yeah, so on the lovely posters around the school with our core values, sometimes we just refer to them as the Pioneer core values.
Okay,
Um,
that's those.
But
I
actually,
know
it's
those.
those 10 under the mission
Okay,
statement.
okay.
They're technically called the PVRS lifelong learning
Okay.
expectations.
That's a NIASC thing.
Yeah.
Yes, that came from, yeah.
Okay.
In case y'all want another acronym.
Any other questions before I go on to the, no? Okay. So, expand the use of differentiated instruction in heterogeneous classrooms, including layer curriculum and redesign special education services. So of course, we know that at Pioneer, we really value heterogeneous classrooms, and that's something that we already do, but continuing to make sure that we're focusing on that and finding new ways to improve our students' outcomes is always important. Yes, David?
It just seems like a good time. I want to vote, I read this already, I want to vote it and support it, but I'm not bought in on heterogeneity, and it is sort of an article of faith here. But in 4 years on the school committee, there's never been a discussion of it, and I wonder if, well, I look in the news and it's hard to make sense of some things, but I think the problems at Mahar, or not Mahar, at Orange Elementary, relate to heterogeneity in the bottom. So I think I'd just like the school committee, I'll vote for this, but I would like us in the next year
To have some
to have
professional
some,
development?
well, to have some discussion of the model.
Yeah, so we could have a community forum where faculty and the school committee come together and have a discussion about this.
And students.
I remember from being on the school council myself that the faculty, I remember bringing up the history of Pioneer with heterogeneous instruction. You know, we were leaders in that area. We did conferences on that in the past. People visited from all over the country. There are people who aren't with us anymore who might be willing to do some training, and there were teachers that were new to heterogeneity that are interested in that. So that's all good conversation to have.
And I would also just say, you know, I know it was a long time ago that happened. It was in the early 80s. It is a common trend in special education to move towards heterogeneity, and we actually have people who were previously employed with us making a whole bunch of money training schools on how to be heterogeneous.
So we'll come
we're kind of
back
ahead
to
of the curve.
that,
thinking
yeah.
on that.
I just have a
Yeah.
comment on
Yeah.
heterogeneity. Back several years ago, David, I think when you were first on, in this very room, we had a presentation by retired staff.
Oh, I remember that,
Do
but we
you?
just never had a discussion
Right,
about its merits.
right, yeah.
Okay.
We were
Yeah.
presented it, and
Maybe we
it's
can
an
get
article of
them
faith.
back.
Right.
And.
So we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, yeah.
So do you want me to read through
I
every
don't
single
think
one if you've already read it? Do you wanna
We
just,
got
like,
sent
tell me?
this, it was only sent on Monday, right? So has
You guys
everybody had a
have any
chance
other
to read it?
questions?
You guys
Well,
have
the
not
new
had a
people
chance to
wouldn't
read it.
have gotten
No,
it
yeah.
Okay.
on Monday.
So,
No, but we get it.
We're going to each address one goal.
right.
Not in its
right.
entirety.
Right. So my concern is that people might not feel ready to vote if they're just hearing about it now, right? So I don't know where we want to go with that.
Can we just let them finish their presentation?
The merits of going through every item and just reading them, I'm not so.
So I mean, do you guys want to just skip them and let me know if you have any questions about this one, and then?
Well, the people that haven't read it,
Can
what's
they
your sense of
summarize?
what would help you with this document right now? What makes sense?
If there's any way that a summary could be given for each goal?
That's, was kind of our intention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can move on.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, yep.
Or who's next to go to?
And I have read it, so if you have read it and you want to ask a question, might be good.
Thanks, Mel. So I have goal number 2. I'm Kevin Mortensen. And this goal is to provide comprehensive grades 7 through 12 career development education curriculum so that 90% of our students demonstrate some competency and essential workplace readiness skills by graduation. And then it talks about what some of those skills are. Workplace readiness is very, it's trending, very popular right now and very important, obviously. But some of those things are maintaining attendance, punctuality, appropriate appearance, accept direction, constructive criticism. You may have also heard, reading the news and elsewhere, that these are some of the soft skills that business would like to see schools maybe make more robust. Take initiative, see projects from initiation to completion. You can read these. Interact effectively with coworkers. Again, communication with others, empathy, those sorts of things, very important. And so we've, like many of these other initiatives, we were in various stages of completion of implementing some of these. Through our advisory program at the high school, and middle school as well, we're spending time and developing programming for career development and job career search, things like that. And it's in the early stages, but that's one of the things that we're working on. Develop, implement middle school, high school career development curricula. We've been exploring that just recently. And then another one is to develop a system to regularly assess students' individual progress with some of these things. And it may sound easy to do, but it's not. And so we're working on that. And so, yeah. Any questions? And unless you want to handle this in another way, I'll let you read the rest of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did I see somewhere in the literature that there was some training or education on checkbook keeping, all these kinds of household type things that a student would need to know once they graduate?
Yeah, we have courses that hit those topics. I know, particularly, I'm a special educator, and in the high school, individually, we'll work on that with certain kids, especially. And but there are. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the courses at this point. Financial literacy. We don't have the money management anymore.
No, this is the new generation.
Oh, okay,
So
very good. We've changed the name.
Yeah.
It's more than that. To me, it's like it's the household keeping a household, grocery shopping, how do you make out the list, how do you, all those kinds of things. We used to offer stuff like that, but is that built into this curriculum somehow?
This is more through my understanding, and the way I'm implementing it in my room is career search, career awareness through the advisory. So we're there's some software and some websites where students can go on and see what's available out there and what careers of the future might be something to look at.
And if you don't mind me adding,
No,
and
not
we've
at
been
all.
doing that since 8th grade. I've taken that test multiple times on the computer that determines if you're a social person or interactives, things like that, that then you can look into careers after that. So sorry, just to add. So that's been
that's
continuous.
okay.
It's not just an advisory.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I believe, does GCC run a program once a year that students can go there, and it all centers around
Career
these
day.
type of skills?
Yeah.
That's right.
There's several things that are in
very
our-
effective,
Yeah.
from what I
So there's a
understand.
reality fair that our students
Yes.
attend every year where it's that kind of thing. You're given a persona
Yeah.
with a certain amount
A
of
job
money,
with
and
a
you have to
certain
put
amount of money to
together
budget.
a house and a car and transportation,
There you go.
entertainment, and everything else.
That would be nice.
So that's part of our career development education curriculum.
Good.
It's a very successful program from what I've
Very popular.
My name's Emily Kester. I'm a parent of 2 former and 1 current Pioneer student and member of the school council. I'm going to address goal number 3, which is to provide a comprehensive set of practices to support social emotional learning and growth in both middle and high school. And we're addressing 5 key social emotional skills based out of the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, which is CASEL is the acronym. And those are self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And as you might imagine, nobody's ready to do anything academic if they haven't got those 5 skills in place. And so we felt like building the developmentally appropriate skills was really important.
It's almost like they're foundational to the work skills that are at the top of the
Exactly.
ticket,
Yeah.
right?
They're foundational for to
Yeah.
life, like to
Yeah.
getting along with your neighbors. One of the key parts of this is starting to move towards a system of restorative justice at Pioneer. We're looking at, which is an approach to discipline that's more along the lines of mediation and working with the student. You know, knowing that suspending and expelling students doesn't help them with their academics. Whereas restorative justice, where we're obviously teaching them the skills that they're lacking that caused the disciplinary infraction, would lead to fewer infractions in the future. That's kind of the emphasis. So looking towards moving Pioneer in that direction is a piece of that.
Can I just get a little history on that? Has Pioneer ever been a restorative justice trained school? Has that ever happened? No. Okay.
And we already have the training active bystander, the TAB training, that meant all middle schoolers are trained in. And they're trained by high school students. And there's, what we want to do is give a refresher to high school students as part of this as well.
We just finished teaching. Our last day was Tuesday
Of the
for-
seventh
of the 7th
graders?
graders, yeah. It worked, yeah, it was good. Yeah, we went to GCC and spoke at the DA's conference and taught middle schoolers from around the region, which was crazy awesome.
Excellent.
And yeah, so that went really well. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, great, thanks for filling me in. Any questions about the social emotional aspect of this school movement?
That must be one of the most extremely difficult areas to address.
It's hard to measure, isn't it?
Because, you know, all of our students come from various backgrounds and bring all of their familial
That's right.
tendencies with them. So
being-
some of that
yeah.
is breaking through.
And being culturally sensitive to the backgrounds that they come from is important as well. Yes.
You guys-
I'm just
Go ahead.
curious under this heading, and I recognize this is not where you are at right now, but I'm just going to throw this out there because I'm looking at social emotional learning 7 to 12, and I know that the TAB program has been present for a while, but is there any movement in the future towards really looking at relationships as far as dating? I know that's becoming a real issue in schools, preparing kids to deal with or to address dating violence or
Is that being,
those types of
is that
relationships.
being addressed in health?
Is part of our health curriculum,
Mhm.
especially in the high school.
Yeah.
Freshman year especially. You
Mm.
take an
I'm-
HHR course.
Okay.
Health and
Covers.
human relations,
Right.
which covers relationships.
It just seemed like it might fall under that category, and I know that that's something that many high schools probably should address,
Yeah.
sort of in a comprehensive way.
Yeah.
I think one of the great things that's happening over the last few years is the Pioneer's involvement with becoming a trauma-informed school,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
kind of touches on a lot of the things that
Yeah.
we've been talking about. And I can't remember who the guy was that came and addressed the school committee last spring. He was from the state. He was I think a trainer or something, but in one of his early comments was nationwide, public schools are having to work with students that, have come from traumatic early things in their lives, and then here we are trying to get academics
Right.
into them.
And when they get to that middle high stage, they start playing those out in their
Yeah,
own relationships.
Yeah, so.
Do you have a curriculum in mind? It says,
Yeah, I was going to cover that in my principal's update.
okay, great, okay.
Okay. So I'm Ella Potee, like Ms. Bacon said, I'm a junior at Pioneer, and I'm going to be focusing on Goal 4, which works to provide appropriate curricular and co-curricular opportunities and support a school-wide culture that supports freedom of speech and thought, respect for others, commitment to equality, and capacity for listening, so that Pioneer students regularly practice the civic dispositions necessary for life as an active citizen. So some examples of the strategic initiatives that accomplish this goal are expanding co-curricular opportunities for student leadership and civic engagement, so student government, school council, ways to get involved in the school community and the school culture. Another one is promoting deeper involvement of students and staff in community service and service learning. So specific programs such as NJHS, NHS, or the Senior Privs new implementation to promote service would go into that column, along with strengthening support for LGBT youth, tolerance of sexual orientation, and gender identity diversity. And all these outcomes, as you can see, are hopes for the final stages of these strategic initiatives. To promote active citizenship and good citizenship of the students that come out of Pioneer. That's the purpose of this
I
goal.
really appreciate seeing it spelled out so clearly. That's great.
So if there's any questions about that.
You're going to wrap it up, Jean, or are you going to wait for the principal's
Nope,
update? That's the wrap up?
That's it. So, again, we're here to present this and to ask for your support so that we can, continue our movement and move forward with this plan over the next 3 years. Okay.
So,
I'm willing to make a motion that we accept it.
so
Nice.
do
I'll
people
second
who just got it feel comfortable with that, though? There is a motion on the floor and a second to approve this plan as it's been presented. People comfortable with that? I'm looking at the new people. This document has had a long road to this table right now, and I feel really proud of this group for finishing the work that got started and for getting it here. And, it's a pretty proud jumping off point, I think. Are we good to go? All right, all those in favor of adopting the school.
There was the motion made?
It
Or
was.
seconded?
Seconded, and Sharon seconded it. Yep, thank you, though.
I was listening to what you were saying.
Yep, so the motion has been made to approve this school improvement plan for 2018-2021 as presented. All those in favor? job, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is still going down that way. I guess there, like, people might have to plug in the right names. Okay, so we're gonna go back to,
Do Ariel next?
Sure, come on up, Ariel. Okay. So we'll finish new business, and then we'll go into the next phase of subcommittee stuff, auditors and subcommittees. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ariel LaRoe, for those of you who may not know me. I am the president of the PVREA, the Pioneer Valley Regional Education Association. Welcome, new school committee members. Very happy to have you here. So we have a short order of business. Oh, and this is Brad Rousseau, who is the representative from the MTA, who advises me and is going to help me with this. So the reason why I'm here tonight is to present to you the request from a majority of the nurses in the district to join our association as professionals in the district, which is covered in our contract. So, what else do I have to say?
Well, explain the relationship between them and what everyone else does.
Well,
do you want me to talk?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Good thing you can.
We're making this request because there's a community of interest between the nurses and the teachers bargaining unit. They're professional employees. They service students. They're credentialed by DESE. And, you know, when I talk about serving students, the support that they give to students is similar to adjustment counselors, school psychologists. They perform those special services, but on the medical side for students. And what we're asking is that they be part of the teachers bargaining unit, which includes those other professions, the adjustment counselors, the school psychologists, the guidance counselors. And they have that community of interest. And because of that, that would be where they would usually belong in a bargaining unit. Most contracts in Western Massachusetts and throughout the Commonwealth have teachers in that bargaining, and this is not something that we're asking you to do that's unusual. This is pretty customary within contracts. So that's simply what we're asking you. There is a process outside our request to you that we could go through with the Labor Relations, Department of Labor Relations, but we thought we would ask you first. It would be easier to do it, you know, with your agreement than going through that process. So that's why we're here today.
Okay, Sharon?
I'm wondering what took so long. And I mean, after we have the discussion, I'm happy to make a motion to go ahead and do this. I think it's well overdue.
And it was, just to clarify, the nurses came to me, and it's actually been quite a long process. We met, we talked about it, and a majority of them signed and said that they wanted to join. So it came from them.
Okay. Jeannie?
My question is, have you spoke to the teachers, the membership that the teachers, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, the association members.
About the faculty, how do they feel? Are they open to the nurses being part of your contract?
We've talked about it in the executive board. It hasn't gone to a vote or anything for the members. It is fairly typical that they're part of the associations.
Yes.
So, no, I haven't brought it to a vote, but
I would think that that's the group that needs to feel comfortable with it, for sure.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, for sure.
David?
In general, I support unions, and but one of the reasons is it gives us a single bargaining unit rather than atomized. But I have concerns about Pioneer. We need flexibility, especially at the tiny schools, with the work rules and such. I would be very concerned if, because of a contract, a nurse at Leiden or Warwick couldn't also answer the door or cover the office. I mean, there's really not, there's a requirement we have a nurse, but there's really not a full workload for a nurse. So as we try to come out of our financial skid and future-proof, we gotta be really careful that we don't turn into the kind of union shop that says, that's not my job.
Well, I mean,
Robin?
even under negotiating, I mean, I guess I'm just curious, and I haven't been part of that directly, but I'm thinking that even if the nurses fall under the teachers group, in a school where we don't have a full workload, we would be offering a 0.5 contract or a 0.6 contract under the same types of steps or whatever. Am I wrong?
Well, I'm
No,
thinking.
The call nature of it is that they need to be at the ready.
Right,
The
so
the
for
question is, can
example.
they do anything else?
Oh, I
if
see what
they're
you're saying.
not being called on.
Yeah. So a nurse's job description isn't just to take care of the one child that they're required to be there for, right?
Well-
They're also taking care of the rest of the building?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, they have to be available to the rest of the building. And I think it's, in my own personal thinking on this, is that it would be, as a nurse, I would much rather be doing something than just sit in my office waiting for somebody. And if that means answering the phone so somebody can have lunch, then I'm willing to do that. We just want to make sure that by them joining your contract, that doesn't restrict them from helping out with these other tasks, especially in the smaller schools.
Sharon?
I agree, Janie, that was a good point. I think any nurse in the district, knowing all of them, would never opt for sitting behind a desk and saying it's not my job. They go out there now, and when there's something they can do, if they're able to do it, they do it. But the thing that they have to be very, very careful of is that they can't busy themselves so that if an emergency comes up on the other side of the building, you're with 12 kids here, you can't leave the 12 kids and run over there. So there has to be a plan to say, look, if there's an emergency, you gotta come here so I can go there. So I think they can work things like that, they're doing it now. But it's a good point too, that, yeah, you can't have people just sitting around.
Their primary
I just want to let Abby, go ahead, Abby.
Well, these things that you're bringing up, I mean, I know at least in line the teachers who are already a part of this organization are doing a lot of those things. And when these details that we're talking about be worked out in those negotiations?
Yeah.
Well, I will say that being part of the most recent budget process, there was an awful lot of pushback from retiring nurses about the dual roles or combining roles at the smaller schools. So my antenna are up, wondering if the desire to become unionized has in its precipitate that there's dissatisfaction with this.
Or an opportunity to
and here's
set
an
limits.
opportunity. Yeah.
I don't think so, but it's a good thought, you know.
What's your take on that?
I haven't heard that, in all honesty, that has not been part of the discussion as to why they want to join. I think that our district being in shifting times, they, I think, want to be part of a group that is working for making sure that employees are protected and that it is collective. So I don't think they're trying to get out of anything.
I mean, my take on the nurses in a school building is a very holistic approach. I mean, that nurse is there for me as well as for the students. And the jobs get done as best and there's usually an emergency team that practices for emergencies,
There
right?
should be
So
an emergency
if there's an
response team
emergency,
within each school
that's all in
also.
place. Yeah, I mean, and I've always thought of the nurses as just part of the faculty of the building.
Is there historically a reason, I mean, if this is common throughout the rest of the districts in the area,
Why
is there
didn't we have
historically
it?
a reason that nurses have been forced in our district or been asked in our district to negotiate individually?
I think it's never been asked.
It's been history.
That's
just never come up until now.
Well, that question has been asked to me repeatedly in this last, even the current nurses have asked, was there a reason why we weren't? And I so far have not found any reason, it maybe 20 years ago or something, but
happened.
it just happened, yeah.
In general, don't they pretty much receive the same benefits as the staff that's covered by the current contract?
As far as.
Generally, but again, that's subject to negotiation.
Right, and I understand
It's not unusual
that.
to have a slightly different wage scale. I mean, but that's something that we talk about in negotiations.
Sharon,
Are
we ready? I feel
One-
ready.
One more question.
Yeah.
As a guy that's followed a lot of unions in his life, this is the weirdest way of unionizing a workforce I've
Yeah.
ever heard of. This is not, it is not usually
It's not
the board of the employer that says, yeah, you can unionize. It's
It's
usually.
certainly unfamiliar to me.
Yeah,
Just if I can put this in a little bit of context, there is a process, and we're in really an open period because we don't have a contract. We're still in negotiations, the old contract expired. But what we're doing is asking you to consider it, because ultimately, if we do it, you have a say in it, whether you want this to happen or not. And there is that process that you could contest this. We're coming here to ask you because it's a simpler way to do this, and it saves that. If you're in agreement with this, we've saved ourselves going down to Springfield for hearing on it and conducting a vote, more formally than has already been done.
Right, perhaps the other way that you would think of would be that we go to the labor board and then they come to you and we have to go and sit
Yeah.
and all of that. So this is more collegial.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. I'll tell you that. Yeah, Sharon?
Can I make a motion? Are we all ready to?
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we allow the nurses to join the PVREA if they so desire.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
I think we can safely say nurses support this one.
Great.
That was unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you for allowing us to
Jump.
move up with the school improvement plan as well.
Have a good night. Thanks for coming. Okay, now we're going to go into the auditor's report. There's a in your packet.
Okay, so we're not going
We
to go
have to
back
make
to
a motion
what
on
we
that.
skipped?
Do we not?
Yeah, we'll have to move to go.
No, Sharon made the motion.
Nope. She
she made a motion to
moved
move
on
it.
the
Yeah.
other one.
Oh, to move it up, right,
We're
okay.
supposed to go back
Yep,
to-
Yep, sorry, I thought you were talking about the nurses thing.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
No, just to
All right.
continue to move out of order.
All right, so the next, where is the auditors? Under appearances 1?
Yes. So we're not going to go back to where we skipped over?
We're going to move auditors up to now.
I still move.
all the appearances or just the
Just
Just
audit?
the auditors. Just the audit. My motion is to remove the audit.
Okay.
Auditors appearance next in front of Roman numeral
Okay.
5.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, thanks for coming.
Hello, everyone.
Well,
Does everyone have a copy of the audit reports?
Let's all find the right document.
Yes.
In the giant pile.
One should be labeled the annual financial statements, and the other one should be the management letter.
And for those of you, the new school committee members, this is Tammy Campbell. She is our auditor from Melanson, and that heads the team that comes in and does our annual audit. Right. So,
Thank you.
don't know her.
I've seen, we've all seen this audit for a long time, right? This is not a new audit.
No, so this is the one that the draft came out. This is 2017. That was originally being held up by the pending legislation. And they now have produced this document to us. It was performed last April, but because of the pending legislation, it had to be withheld from being released until further advisement from the state to allow them to release that with a footnote in regards to the pending legislation. So that has happened.
David is true, it's accurate, right? We have seen this before, those of us who are on the committee, or no?
So you guys were
These are-
issued a draft.
Okay.
I've seen
Okay. It was a draft.
You might have issued.
Where we
yeah,
issued a draft?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a few months ago, probably.
Yeah.
We started the audit back in April, and then we were told by the state to hold off and wait for
Right.
the legislation, which never materialized. So instead of delaying the audit any further, we added a footnote to the financial statements and then issued the financial statements. So,
Excuse me.
Jeannie?
You mentioned the legislation that was never approved, or you took?
It has
Well,
been
the
approved.
It just
Right.
Right, but
Like just
they didn't
once,
want to
right,
hold
yeah.
off.
All right,
on
that's,
Right.
okay,
It shouldn't
fine.
audit any
Thought, I
longer.
didn't know if there was another legislation.
No.
so-
Same one.
No,
Okay.
no, and yeah, right. When we issued the draft, it hadn't been approved, so in order, yeah. We didn't want to sit on this any longer. We, it had been a few months since we finalized the actual audit field work and wanted to get this out the door. These are the 2017 financial statements and management letters, so just be aware of that. I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but there are some things I certainly do want to discuss.
Before you go too far, let's establish what time frame for everybody that doesn't understand the lingo.
Right. So this is for the year ending 6/30/17. So from
So the 2016, 2017 school year.
Yep,
So
so from-
July 1, 2016.
Yep.
To June 30,
2017.
Yeah, and I would just think of it as, we're looking for an audit of last year where we thought we lost $1 million. This is not that, this is the prior year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Pat's seen this, I've seen this.
I have.
Right.
All of you were issued the draft recently, and the FY18 audit has been moved up. It was originally scheduled January 22nd, but the state was able to work with Tanya and her schedule and move it up to December 3rd. So we will be
So it'll be more.
doing the FY18 audit more timely as I had originally requested, but obviously the auditors have their schedules usually annually, so they were able to accommodate moving us up quite a bit originally, and then a little bit further so that we can move forward with our overseeing and our legislation process.
Right, so hopefully I'll be meeting with you in a few months to discuss 18, right?
So, and I was the one to answer and respond on the management letter, basically just stating where we are with certain things that were in here, so, but everything that happened in here was, unfortunately, under prior administration and activity, so just keep that in mind as it's
Are we in the
reported.
management letter or the financial statement?
We'll start in the financial statements first,
Okay.
but before we get into that, I wanted to give just a quick overview of what an audit does and does not do. I know a lot of you are kind of new to this. We often, as auditors, find that there can be this misconception out there when people hear the term audit. They think that we come in and we pour through every single document and every single transaction that passed through the entity during the fiscal year. And that is not the case. An audit does not provide 100% assurance that every balance is looked at, every transaction is reviewed or audited. That's not the way an audit is designed. Instead, audits are conducted under a set of standards known as government auditing standards. Those standards require that we plan to perform our audit using a concept known as materiality. Materiality will vary based on the size of the entity, and in fiscal year 2017, materiality for the district's general fund, or your main operating fund, is about $120,000. That doesn't mean we don't look at anything below that amount, but because we certainly do, it just means that auditing standards say we should focus our testing on the transactions and balances at or above that level. During the audit, we spend time doing different types of testing. We perform what's known as a review of the district's internal controls, specifically over your cash receipt cycle, your cash disbursement cycle, so your AP, your payroll, for instance, and then design procedures to test those controls and make sure they're operating effectively in the year under audit. We also perform what's known as substantive testing to make sure that the balances that are reported in the district's general ledger and ultimately in the financial statements are adequately supported. So we test to make sure, for instance, that your cash balances are supported by reconciled bank statements, things along that line. Feel free to stop me at any point in time when I'm going through this. I do want to look at the financial statements. I'm not going to do a really deep dive because, like I said, it is for 6/30/17, but I wanted to look at page 12 specifically. Page 12 is the district's
balance sheet. So it lists the assets and liabilities of the district. And for any of you who were here during last year's presentation, we did express some concern over the, it's called the unassigned fund balance in your general fund. So in the bottom kind of left-hand corner of the page, last year the fund balance was about just over $110,000, which really concerned us. This year, it dropped into deficit. Actually, it's a deficit of almost $250,000, which when we first saw this during our preliminary review of the audit, that's where we kind of met with everyone and raised some big concerns there. The reason for that swing was a couple things. The revenue for the district in fiscal year 2017 came in under budget by about $190,000. Most of that was due to your tuition revenue that didn't materialize. It had been on kind of a downward trend the past few years. The district also overspent the expenditure budget by about $170,000, so the two of those combined gives you the swing of $360,000 from the positive 110 to the negative 250 there. I just wanted to point that out. One of the other columns in this on the balance sheet is your school lunch fund, which we have talked about for the past couple of years as well. That had a deficit of about $250,000 at the end of 2017. It was a deficit of about $210,000 in the prior year, so that deficit did grow again in fiscal year 2017. Excuse me. In the next column there, the non-major funds, which is really a combination of some of the district's grant funds, capital project funds. They get grouped together there. The negative $140,000 is the district's circuit breaker fund, which was also in deficit at the end of the fiscal year. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the management letter there. But all in all, not good numbers to look at the end of 2017. So, does anyone have any questions? This page, I know you guys have all kind of seen this and gone through this over and over again, but that was really the only page I was going to touch on the financial statements, unless anyone had any other questions in that document. No.
So if the committee has questions at another time, do we have a process for getting those answered?
I can leave a stack of my cards. And Tanya certainly has my email as well. So yeah, that's.
So there is a way for people to ask you questions about this document at another time?
Yeah.
Do you want us to sort of gather those questions and make clear that we can't just answer them? Or,
right. Prefer it kind of go through one person. I mean, Tanya might be able to answer some of them as well. And like I said, I'm looking at 2017.
Soon. We'll be together again soon.
And yeah, we're hoping to get numbers and start looking at things before middle of December, but it is our busy time. So we're trying to squeeze you guys in and get you get things looked at sooner than later. So.
And the state has this document?
Yeah. We send it to the state when it's after it's been finalized. Yeah.
Yeah. And our overseer has this document?
I provided him with a draft of it because when he came in, I didn't have the final document.
Okay, and it's the exact same. The draft is the exact same. It just says draft on it. So
okay.
No numbers changed or anything like that.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. And we've been in communication with him as well.
Is that comfortable for people to move on?
All right. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that I can on this, as well as I did work with the auditors when they came in as my position as treasurer. So I will certainly try to.
Could you say something about page 13 that shows us $9 million in the hole? What I think that is a recognition of a lot of stuff that we're not necessarily required to pay for
13.
now, just recognize, like the 21 million.
Oh, yeah, so maybe.
Perfect example of a question that might come up when people start looking at the whole document.
Yeah, I know, and I didn't want to, really, I could go on for quite a while about these financial statements. Page 10 might be better to look at. then page 13.
Less disturbing?
No, it still has
More
the 9 million,
detail.
but it might be easier to kind of look at there. So the page we were originally looking at, your balance sheet on page 12, is what are known as your fund basis financial statements. And those are more in line with what you guys are used to looking at on a monthly basis. Page 10, which correlates to page 13 to some degree, these are your government-wide financial statements, which are, they show the government or the district more like a business. So you take your fund basis and then you add things like your capital assets, your long-term debt, and your other long-term liabilities like your net OPEB obligation, your net pension liability. When you add those things, and because most of them are actual liabilities to the district, you end up with a net position of negative almost $3 million. Those are liabilities that, they're long-term liabilities, and obviously you have to fund your debt, which at this point in time you only have a note payable. Yeah, it's gone now. As of 17, you had 2 years left. Your net pension liability is the district's share of the Franklin County Retirement System's unfunded liability, because you're a member of the retirement system. You have a funding schedule in place for that, so you have an annual assessment. At some point, the plan is that will be funded. Your net OPEB obligation, that is an unfunded liability. There's no requirement at this time to fund that liability, and that liability represents the district's share of the retiree health insurance.
Can you say what that acronym is?
OPEB?
Yeah.
Other post-employment benefits.
Okay.
Yeah, so
retiree health
retiree
insurance
health
mostly.
insurance costs for the district. Like I said, there's no requirement at this time to fund it, but it is, it is a future liability of the district, and one of the accounting standards requires you to record that liability in your financial statements, even though it's not all due and payable at that point in time.
Yeah.
So that's what that negative $9 million represents. Most cities, towns, districts have a negative net position on this page, and it, it's certainly worrisome, and I think that's, all kind of shock and awe is the reason they required you to book these big liabilities, even though they're not due at that point in time. But these aren't as meaningful, I don't think, to the users of the financial statements as your fund basis financial statements. That's more where we're concerned, and, where you guys should be concerned, the state is concerned.
And with the OPEB real quick, just so you guys understand, what some municipalities or school districts are doing is if they have really good years and have free cash, they're setting up set-aside funds. So like when I was in Ashburnham, we set up a sick leave buyback account so that each year that sick leave buyback didn't have to be part of your normal operating budget. So the idea of this liability, if you fund it, is such that if you can put into it each year, it kind of levels out what needs to be input from your operating budget in to fund the government or the retirees' health or the pension liability that we pay annually. But that's typical if you're in a better financial situation than we are, unfortunately, right now.
Some districts are setting up accounts against, almost separate investment accounts against those things.
Trust funds, OPEB trust
Yeah,
funds.
there's
Yep.
OPEB trust fund,
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that at this point in time. But
No, I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting it that we are in a spot to do that. I'm aware that some districts have been at some point and have set up those funds.
Yep.
And there are some very wealthy municipalities that are fully
They're
funded,
fully
but they're
funded,
few
yeah.
and far between.
It's unreal, yeah. Most are not, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if anything else comes up, please, let me know. All right, now in terms of the management letter, there are essentially 3 different types of internal control comments that we can report in the management letter. There's material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, and then other just general and suggestions for internal control improvements or other recommendations. A material weakness is a deficiency in the internal control structure that is so severe a material misstatement could occur and go undetected. The district has 3 of those in the management letter in 2017. Also had 3 of them last year as well.
Are they the same?
They're a lot similar. They've kind of evolved a little bit over the years, but they're related to the same types of issues in terms of the budget process and the treasurer's position. There's also a significant deficiency, which is a deficiency in internal control that's not quite as severe as a material weakness, but it still warrants attention by management and those charged with governance, which is the school committee. There is one of those in the school district's management letter this year, which is also a repeat from the prior year. It has to do with the school lunch deficit. And then other, recommendations for improvement. There's one of those as well. So I was going to just kind of give a brief overview of the comments and recommendations. I know things may have been changed and updated. We're a little over a year out now, so bear with me. The audit's always looking backwards. You guys are always looking forward. I completely understand that, but we're reporting on fiscal year 17. The first comment has to do with the budgeting process, and as I said, we've kind of reported this in some way or another for the past 3 years now. Things have improved in terms of the budgeting, did improve over the last couple of years over the budgeting process, but we continue to find issues in our testing and review of that. Specifically, after the district adopts a budget, you have a revenue budget and you have an expenditure budget. Every year, the expenditure budget would be input into the district general ledger, and you can track on a monthly basis your budget versus actual, how your expenses are compared to what you budgeted. That was not done and has not been done for the revenue side of the budget. So there's no mechanism to monitor how your revenues are coming in compared to what you budgeted as a district. If that had been input, there's a few things that would have kind of stood out. There was a double entry for a revenue for $270,000 that shouldn't have been posted, and there was a revenue that got posted to an expense. So if you had actually had a budget in there, you would have seen that something was wrong and something was misposted, for instance, and seeing that your revenue was coming in under budget itself. Excuse me. In terms of the overall budget process, as I talked about before, your general fund revenue came in under budget by $190,000, but you also overexpended your expense budget by $170,000. So you ended up with a net budget deficit of $360,000 in 2017, which we talked about was a result of the decrease in your fund balance and your general fund last fiscal year. The district reclassified special education tuition costs out of the general fund into the circuit breaker fund in fiscal year 2017, but reclassed more than what you actually had available in that fund, which is why you ended up with a deficit of $140,000 in the circuit breaker fund at the end of 2017. We also talked about, the last bullet here, we've kind of noted the past few years. I mean, the ultimate goal is just to be able to set up a process to grow your undesignated fund balance and your reserves to, about 5% of the budget, but.
It has to happen now.
I know. There's a lot of challenges, but I think you guys are heading in the right direction, so. Does anyone have any questions on comment number 1? Comment number 2 and 3 are kind of related. I did split them up in the management letter because they were somewhat distinct and I didn't want the comment to go on for 2 pages, but and they both relate to the issues in the treasurer's position. During fiscal year 2017, the treasurer didn't maintain a cash book, which, if you think of it in like real world terms, it's like your checkbook, basically a check register.
Yep.
Except for they have multiple bank accounts that they would have a column for each, and essentially every time a warrant was issued, you would issue the warrant and the amount came out of the bank. Okay. Deposit came in for this amount, went into this bank, it goes in that column. So, and then at the end of the month, you kind of total everything, you end up with a balance in each bank account, which then gets reconciled to the bank statement. And you end up with maybe reconciling items such as outstanding checks or a deposit that, deposit in transit, things like that. That was not maintained in 17, and bank reconciliations were also not done in fiscal year 2017, which is, I think, part of the reason the audit was delayed, or just we weren't able to get in there as soon as we, would like to. So between the lack of either one of those, there was really no internal controls over the district's largest asset in fiscal year 2017, which is your cash. So, so it was really concerning to us, which is why both of those are material weaknesses. The district did hire a consultant to come in after year end and go through and clean things up and perform bank reconciliations, which resulted in a lot of journal entries. I'm sure Tanya has looked at those over and over again.
And I had to do a lot of that in 18 when I came on still. So.
So it leaves room for lots of errors. There's no control really. So you have no idea what your cash balances is. It was not good.
It was a rubber-aid train.
Yeah, it was very scary. Part of the reason that I think the district couldn't make their RAND payment on time. I mean, you didn't really know what you had in each bank account. You didn't know a lot in terms of what you had for cash balances. So that resulted in a lot of scrambling at year end as well. But so that was a big concern for us. I understand that that's been remedied now, which is good. But we're, it's a big mess. It's certainly hard to work through in 17. So. Does anyone have any questions on either one of those? Comment number 4 is a couple of just smaller recommendations that we had, or issues that we found in some of the testing. The first comment there had to do with procurement, which I'm sure most of you guys are aware, but depending on what the district is purchasing and how the dollar amount, I guess, of the purchase, you may have to go out to bid or obtain 3 quotes from companies in order to make that purchase in compliance with Massachusetts general laws. The state also has a bid list where you can go to the website and find a vendor that way, which ultimately makes things easier. It saves some of the legwork and calling people and stuff like that. Yeah.
I have a question. What is the amount that a project would have to be at to go out to bid?
Depends on the type of
it
item
does
you're purchasing.
Right.
So there's different
Categories.
different levels of going out for bid depending on what the services are.
Like supplies and services type of
$50,000
There's a 10 to 50, and then there's a 50 and over. I think that's been recently revised. So.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah, the 25 became 50 and the 5 became 10.
Yeah.
And that was just a year or 2 ago that was
not
updated.
long ago. Yeah.
So under 10,000, it wouldn't have to go out to bid?
Under 50, it wouldn't have to go out.
Right.
If you're
It
buying
depends on
goods
the
or services,
type, yeah.
non-construction,
It's
if
10,000.
under 10,000, good business
Best
practices.
business, yeah.
Between $10,000 and $50,000, written specs, 3 quotes.
Yeah.
Above 50, you bid, and there's certain advertising requirements too.
Right. unless you use the state bid list.
Right.
Yes. Which in this case, like, as part of our audit procedures, we randomly select a sample of purchases that would be subject to the procurement laws, you know, whether it's bids or quotes, we do a sample of each. And in this case, we found that something was purchased that was noted as being on the state bid list, but we still require documentation that shows that it actually was on the state bid list, that the price on the invoice actually matches what they said, the state bid list, like the price on the state bid list. So there was no documentation to support that. So we just recommend that going forward, even if you're purchasing something on the state bid list, because it's hard to go back at a later date, because a lot of times they'll pull old contracts. It's just not, surprisingly, it's not the easiest website to use. So, you know, as you're doing it, just to print that out and have that available, included with the invoice, whatever. But that was our recommendation. The next recommendation is to update the district's chart of accounts, which you know, would be a somewhat daunting task, but it would certainly make things easier and clearer in the long run, I believe. Right now, the chart of accounts does not comply with any kind of logical fashion, I guess, with Uniform Accounting System guidelines or DESI guidelines. And it makes completing the school's end-of-year report very difficult, tying things out, stuff like that. So it's...
Tony, can you just, for those of us who don't know
Yeah.
this stuff, can you just tell us what you're talking about?
The
chart of accounts?
Yeah, so if you're looking at the expenditure report, there's account numbers there for each account. And DESI has like a standard chart of accounts, so supplies are a certain number, personal salaries are a certain number code, things like that. You would have a code in each for location. There's certain aspects of your chart of accounts that would specify certain things. Right now, some of them are set up that way, I believe. Like your revenue numbers are
there's
all...
codes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so you know whether it's shared or a school-based.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's certain pieces of it. So some of them are set up that way, but it's not great.
Not consistent all the way through.
No, not
It's not
consistent.
compliant with
Depending who
UMass
set
or
it up,
DESI.
it's not compliant with the recommended chart of accounts, things along that line. Yeah.
So in order to, I would think it would, that if you could convert over to a recognized chart of account structure, then our reporting would go a lot easier. So instead of mapping stuff every time.
Yeah.
So would you advise us to stick with the same software and adopt a more meaningful chart of accounts, or is there something else that we should maybe look at?
I think your software is fine. Yeah. It's not the software problem, it's really the account
Just
structure.
The chart of accounts that was created originally when Budget Sense was implemented wasn't in compliance with UMass or DESI. And part of, before FY20 happens, a new chart of accounts will be in place that will be in compliance. And I've actually reached out and kind of buddied up with someone who's already done this. So I have her chart of accounts and the consultant that she worked with. But I'm familiar with this because I had to rewrite the chart of accounts when I was in Ashburnham, which have to be compliant with UMass, and then DESI adds a little bit more level of that as far as the school and the location, but it's very similar. So once the budget process happens, the new chart of accounts will be created.
Right.
before
So you're
FY20.
on it, Tanya.
Yeah.
Right?
So-
Okay.
Right.
That's great. Yes, thank you.
It's not an easy task.
No,
though.
it's
very,
not.
Yeah.
And then there'll be like a mass deactivation of all the old accounts before it rolls
I know,
over.
sorry, but yeah, it really would be for the best, and
Yeah.
it would be...
We have a question from an administrator.
We had talked about that a little bit in the past couple of years, noticing that during budget time. And one of the concerns when this happens is that it's hard to compare old budgets to new budgets because numbers are changing.
And there'll be a crosswalk.
Yeah.
So when I prepare the original budget Excel worksheet that we'll be working off of, it'll have all the old numbers that you guys are using. But when I create the new chart of accounts in place, there'll be a crosswalk, so you'll have a spreadsheet that you can look up your old new account to find out what your new account is. And I've already gone through that process in another town.
And I'm thinking about like for the committee members and the
Yeah.
public.
In order to
where-
budget
Right,
plan
yeah.
for
those
comparing year to year.
numbers
But we
go,
haven't
right.
been able to do
Yeah.
that for.
Right.
I was gonna say, I don't think that's really
On the
a,
commi- it's-
yeah.
Ever since I've
Yeah,
been on the.
no, there's been no
Right.
ability to compare year to year.
Well,
Most.
There will be. Past few years, yeah.
Right.
Well, and there's been shifts too, and, you know, you might have a teacher at Pioneer, but they really should be in chair, so there's been some shifting and getting things in the lines they
Yeah.
really belong in, so
Right.
comparing year to year isn't always helpful
Yeah.
on that level either.
right,
Okay.
So anyways.
okay. She's on it. All right.
Yeah, she's on it.
And the last comment in number 4 had to do with capital project budgeting, or recording the capital project budgets. There was no new capital projects in 2017, so this is really just kind of a carryover from a prior year. I just didn't want it to get forgotten. And, you know, what happens when you vote capital projects, in the prior year, say, $100,000 got voted, but there was like 3 different projects, you know, one for 50, one for 25, one for 25. The whole $100,000 budget went into one fund and everything went into one fund, so there was really no tracking of the individual projects and how, okay, so if we voted $50,000 for this project, we may have spent 60 on that one, but only 15 on the other one, so we ended up okay, but, you know, might not have been where you should have been. So just going forward, if there is any capital projects that are approved by the town, the member towns, just to kind of track it on an individual basis, and that's easy enough to do in the general ledger, but, so, how that has to do with. And the last comment relates to the school lunch deficit, which we have repeated, it's been in the management letter for quite a few years now. The deficit continues to grow. We lost about $44,000 in fiscal year 2017. I know there is currently a funding schedule in place for that from the member towns, is my understanding, which is good. Going forward, obviously it'd be best to try to work something in the general fund budget. I know we've talked about this in prior years. So you can move money to that fund so the deficit doesn't continue to grow on an annual basis. But
We did vote a $50,000 general fund subsidy for the school lunch fund, and that was actually a parameter of the town's voting to fund that.
Yep.
But we do have a new food service manager also, so budgeting is going to be happening for the school lunch.
Good.
And I keep harping on it, so.
I know, I know.
Trust me,
You know,
Bob will tell you if he's here that I keep, next
yeah.
week we're gonna be meeting, because we wanted to get 2 months in for the school year.
He's here.
To kind of, yeah, he's here,
Yeah.
to kind of see where we're operating, because as we know, we did cut some staff there too. So, it is an area that we're working on.
That's good. Very good. That's all I got. All right.
Thank you, Tanya.
You're
Until we
welcome.
meet again.
Yeah, 2 months.
Can I ask you another question? Your job might depend on this, right? There's a school response for each of your weaknesses noted.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if these responses, you can tell the town's finance people, select boards, that if these are followed, this will remedy the weakness that you have noticed?
We don't audit those responses, and yeah, I mean, to a T, if they're followed to a T, then yes. I mean, we take them into consideration. Every single year for our audit, so in fiscal year 2018, for instance, we will start with this management letter and follow up on it. So, okay, where did they end up with this? What did they do? Did they resolve this issue, or is it still an issue going forward? That's part of our audit process. So not to discount the comments or what they say they're going to do, but we follow up on it in our own fashion and based on our own testing, not just, oh, they said they were going to do that, so good, we're done, check, and move on. Like, there is a thorough process to following up on these every year. Does that answer your question? I mean,
Bob, can I just make sure I understand your question?
Yeah.
So basically, you're noticing that we've been told we need to fix things, right? And then you're wondering, how does the town know if we've actually done that? Is that your basic
Right,
question?
I'm just wondering if the school district response is what is actually done, will this take care of the weakness that the auditors have noticed?
Yes, I mean, for instance, if they're, in comment number 2 where they're saying that they now maintain a cash book, we will not have a comment saying you need to maintain a cash book. There may be a comment that comes out of it like saying that, they they set up a cash book, but they really should do it this way or like something else. So it may lead to another comment or something else, but, I read through the comments, but I don't,
Depends whether they follow through on what they're saying.
right, yeah, and we don't modify those. Those are,
those are
verbatim what the district said. So I don't read through them and edit them or anything like that. So it's it's their response. They don't even have to put a response in, but it kind of holds them accountable, saying, we're going to do this, or we did this, or in 2020 we're going to do this.
Well, as a town, when the auditor comes to Bernardston, they recommend things that need to be changed. We respond to that.
Yep.
And the next year, they check to actually see what we did
Yes.
to respond to that.
Exactly, and that's what we do every year. We audit.
And you'll note too that some of the stuff that's on here, it will be on here again in 18 because some of these items, because of the timing and when staff was in place to remedy these, for example, the cash book that she's talking about, when I came in, that started in the middle of 18, so it wouldn't have been for the whole year. So there may be a comment such that a cash book and better reconciliations were put in place in FY18, but only for a part of the year. So some of these will carry forward in the FY18 audit that you'll see later in the year, because some of the remedies are in FY19 or even FY20 as far as the chart of accounts goes. So some of these may continue on, but the auditor may note that they understand that the district is making improvements, and they will follow up in the following year or something to that extent.
Okay, when the overseer has been hired for our district?
Yep.
What's the overseer's involvement with this document, these recommendations, our district's accountability with those? Is there any involvement with that?
Not from the audit standpoint, really. They're reporting to the state and the state's oversight. They do look at the audit as a way to evaluate what we've been doing in the past and looking at the improvements we're making.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's a
basically she's
collaboration.
saying, there are financial changes in how we manage our district that have to be made. So I'm assuming an overseer is going to be looking for those remedies to be implemented. Is that not true?
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly work with him. I think a lot of what he's going to be doing is similar to what we do. I mean, we obtain the budget documents from the district and we, evaluate them and look at them and tie them out to things. Either he will do that as well or rely on kind of what we're doing and work together on that. I think he's got, different goals in mind than we do, and he I think wants to rely on us to make sure that the amounts reported in the district's general ledger, everything's accounted for and reconciled and stuff like that, and just having the auditors look at that provides additional assurance on that in terms of tying everything out.
Yeah.
But other than using our audit for that, I'm not sure. I mean, he's got, different priorities.
What's the auditor's or the overseer's name?
It's Rick Kingsley.
Rick. Yeah. And
I'll
what?
speak a little more about that when I do my update.
Okay. And will you give update on what his process and time and stuff like that? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to subcommittee assignments, is that true?
Well, I'm wondering, in fairness to a lot of the people that are here, if we could push that more towards the end?
Making a motion? What's that, Jen?
The subcommittee
The agenda.
assignments, if we could.
Ken.
Yeah, excellent, that's what I was thinking too, yeah. Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that.
Oh,
Can
sorry,
I
Pat.
just ask something
Yep.
first? I was wondering if the committee could take some paper and write down their choices, 1, 2, 3.
We have a document.
Yeah, we actually
Okay.
prepared that for everybody.
I would think if people could pass that around and then as they're thinking about it and the meeting's proceeding, because it's going to take a little while for people to fill that out, and they're going to do it quickly as they run out the door and not give it a lot of thought.
Well,
You can also email your preferences, and if you want to take it home and
so-
think about it, yeah,
So
I'll
in
pass it
other
out.
words,
so you have it.
the committee assignments won't be completed
They're not
tonight?
happening tonight.
No.
But you've got to fill out your papers so that Sue can figure it out, and it's going to take her, we need the information tonight. I would think she would need that so that she could work on it, because it's not an easy job.
If there's not enough.
We need one
just
more.
in a document.
Take this one off.
You have another one. Here's another one.
We have extra.
You have extra?
Okay.
We do.
Want to pass it back?
You don't get to have that.
I got one others. A quick study. Okay, so, are we pausing to do this, or are we doing it while we go on and do other things?
We're just going to say,
Everybody but you.
forms were distributed.
I would say if we could just fill them out as the meeting progresses and then pass them to you at the end.
Yeah, if you're ready. I mean, you have to have read about your subcommittees and given it some thought, right? And if you haven't had access to the documents to read about your subcommittees or didn't find it online, then you might not be ready to fill it out.
There was a question at the forum.
Yeah,
That was
I
Yeah.
presented to us. so-
yeah.
I had asked if Stacy would make sure that everyone got the information on what subcommittees were,
Yep.
so that they would be ready to fill that out, so,
Okay. It's all just a very quick turnaround, so
yeah.
if you're not ready, what is today?
Did you get that information like a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, I
Okay, that's
need
what I
it by,
thought.
in the next couple of days.
That's what I was
If you're not
hoping.
com- if you're
That's
not
what I had
comfortable getting it
asked
to me
her.
tonight.
I know
Okay, that's what I
negotiations is really stuck until this is figured
Yeah,
out.
well, yeah, we all got it.
Yeah, that's what I thought, so, that's what I thought, people should have been aware of what it was. Ooh, sorry about that. Yes, I
Do you want to formally make a motion to move the stuff up before all the financials?
Was talking about the subcommittee assignments to that to the end.
Oh.
That's all I was
Oh,
talking
okay, I thought you
about.
were talking about getting our appearances up.
I would move that we
Okay. Yep.
act on the appearances next.
Yep.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of moving appearances up above the financial section of our agenda tonight? Okay. Pat, no, not you?
No, well, I have a question.
Oh,
Or a
okay, yep.
statement, A statement. It says here, subcommittee meeting assignments for 18 through 20. In the past, we've done those every year.
Yeah.
So we've changed subcommittees every year.
I think it was the DESI.
So we vote officers every 2 years and subcommittee assignments every year?
That's
2
what
years
we've
is
done
a
in the
long
past.
sentence in some cases.
Indeed.
This paper, the paper you handed out says 1 year.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
agenda says 2
Two.
years.
I think 1 year
And
is
there
more.
was a policy that went around
I thought those were
about how
due
we do
dates.
it, and that was that just about
Maybe it's
electing
November.
officers, or was it about
I haven't seen
subcommittees?
anything about.
It's officers and committee assignments for 2 years.
Maybe that's something we could put off to discussion at the end.
So what it says is get it back between November 18th and November 20th,
That's what I thought.
as opposed to November 2018 and November 2020.
Oh.
So that's why it looks
Oh, good, I was right.
So.
Okay.
Me happy.
First time back to you before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost everybody's is already.
It's been a
in
long
the
day.
pile.
Yeah.
You got it.
Huh? Yeah, okay.
That was the
All
first
right.
thing.
Okay, thanks, everybody. All right, so do we have a motion and a second, and we voted to move the appearances up, right?
Yes.
That's what we just did. Okay, so.
After we did.
We've already heard from the auditors, and now we can hear from the Heart Committee. Is anybody from the Heart Committee here to present? Okay, I will give the Heart Committee's update, since I am the school committee rep to the Heart Committee. So the Heart Committee has been meeting with Mac Reed from Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools to update our district agreement. We are all the way through a first review of proposed changes that include things like proposed school closure language and processes, a proposed section on what happens if a school wants to withdraw from the district. We've updated a whole bunch of just mass general law issues. And the part that we will do next as a review committee is the section on budgeting. We have started to bring out to our select boards the sections that are new, like the section on school closure, and getting initial feedback on that. Next, we will, some of the towns have reviewed that and had discussions with Heart Committee members, and some have not. The next section that will come to the select boards for initial peek is the withdrawal from the district section. The whole document has had a thorough sort of update at this point, and we're teasing out and voting on changes to bring to the committee for voting. Some of the...
You're saying to bring to the Heart Committee for voting?
To this committee.
To the
We're
school
voting as a
committee?
committee to try to get a document together that we all stand behind, having already sort of hashed out a bunch of stuff that we hope will be acceptable to the committee. In the process of doing that, there are elements of that agreement that involve the town, so we're trying to keep people in the loop. And Heart Committee members are going to select board meetings and sharing sections with the select board, getting some of their feedback, making some changes to the document. When it gets here, it will have had a thorough review with the consultants that are helping us have done this for many, many districts at this point. So they're providing model language and that sort of thing. It's still going to be a big document for us to review and approve, but it should be in really good shape by the time we get it here. We're also, the Heart Committee had hired consultants to look at 4 different items on our scope of work. We're starting to have data ready to review for that. So at the next Heart Committee meeting on the 19th of November at 6:30 in Northfield, I believe, I can clarify that later, we will be hearing from Mark Abrahams and Steve Hemman on an update on our, number 1, our do-nothing budget, basically taking our current FY19 budget and projecting it out 4 years. And then our look at administrative structure, our look at school closure processes, and our, trying to remember all the elements of the a review of how choice impacts our district. And eventually we'll be doing a survey to try to actually gather data on school choice in and out. So the big sort of initial data peak for the committee will happen on the 19th. We will be with the consultants. We will be asking questions. It is a public meeting, but the big public forum that the Heart Committee will help facilitate, which will be all the finance committees, the select boards, the school committee, the Heart Committee should all be together at that point with any community members, hopefully lots of community members who will come on December 5th. It's a community forum. It's a time for everybody to see the data, ask questions. That's our process at this point.
Do you know when that's going to be, Sue?
It's going to be in the cafeteria at Pioneer.
It's going to be there for
7 o'clock.
Yes, I believe. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to have additional smart boards so that people have access to the slides from wherever they're sitting, and we'll work on amplification.
And that's at what time?
7. 6:30, sorry.
6:30.
The dates have been confirmed, yes. I wasn't sure on the time, so thanks for telling me. 6:30.
The cafeteria? not the
Cafeteria.
auditorium?
No, not the auditorium. Yeah. Okay.
You wanted it to be more.
That's the Heart update at this point. Does anybody have questions for me on the Heart update? right, that's our update. Principals and admins. Who's on first?
Sure.
Yes.
Hey, congratulations and welcome to new members. Good to see you all at, Bernardston. Tonight at Bernardston Elementary, Deb Wood, she's the out-of-school program coordinator, is finishing the last of a 5-part series of parent workshops. It's a Pioneer Valley Coordinated Family and Community Engagement Program, and it's working with children's caregivers, whether it's parent, guardian, or grandparents. And that's a district-wide program, and this was the last of a 5-part series, and it's designed to help the caregivers make sure that children feel competent and confident with themselves and others. And it's been a pretty good turnout for the series because they've had childcare provided as well as food, and so Deb Wood did a great job with that. Also happening at BES today was the second part of a 3-part series for 6th graders. They're being trained as peer mediators by our adjustment counselor, Andrea Franz, and I'm assisting with that as well. And what they will be doing is helping with conflict resolution for some of the younger students. I see you're shaking your head. You've done that before?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's great, and the 6th graders are really stepping up to the plate and looking forward to assisting. They'll do it in pairs. It's totally on a volunteer basis, and it's for smaller infractions where children aren't getting along, nothing like fights or any kind of a bullying complaint, anything like that. That would still come to the principal, but that's going well. At Pearl Roads, we're moving forward with a project-based learning. We received notice that we'll get a MCC STARS grant, and we'll be working with Sarah Campbell. She's a retired civil engineer. Oh, you know her. And so we'll be working on a Leiden history project with the students there. Upcoming next week on Tuesday at 9 o'clock at Bernardston, we'll have a Veterans Day Assembly. There'll be a color guard coming down from Brattleboro American Legion, and we've got from Bernardston and Northfield some World War II, Korean War, Vietnam era veterans that are going to be coming, and the children really look forward to it. And Lynette Snedeker has been working with the students on some patriotic songs, and the kids really look forward to meeting and greeting the vets. And the same thing will be happening at Leiden, at Pearl Roads with the Leiden vets next Friday at 9 o'clock. And then the next big thing will be the Turkey Trot. That's Wednesday, November 21st at Bernardston Elementary, and Warwick Community School and Pearl Roads will be coming down for that, and always a great time with that.
Hey,
Yeah.
just wanted to say, go ahead.
Bob, does your PTO have a Facebook page?
I don't
Because
go
I saw-
on them. They do. I know they do, but and I believe it's for Bernardston. It's Bernardston PTO, so that's how I think theirs is. And then Pearl Roads. I think
We do have one.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's exactly
what the name
called.
is.
Yeah,
but I'll.
Because
I think if you
believe-
look up Pearl Roads, you'll find it.
I believe, is it the Bernardston PTO that's doing Come and Make a Sign?
Yes.
And I keep trying to find it to sign up for it anyway, so, okay, thank you.
And on the PTOs, they've both been great. Both schools had entries in the Scarecrow in the Park, and that was a fantastic event as always in Bernardston. Bernardston had a craft fair over the weekend, and it was the best one yet. And I don't know if you were able to stop by, but there was there were food vendors, and it was a very good turnout and very profitable for the PTO.
Great photos of the Pumpkin Man. I mean, great drawings of the Pumpkin Man. Hysterical.
It's an annual thing, and no one knows who it is, and the kids are convinced it's me, and I have to say, well, I take half the pictures of him, so.
But that doesn't comprehend.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello. It's nice to see everybody. So I want to just talk first about, a couple weeks ago, we had a full-day Friday in-service, and at the elementary level, two of the main choices were around ELA. So we spent the morning with a presenter. Some of the early ed teachers spent the morning with a presenter around phonics instruction and strategies around that, while some of the upper grade teachers worked together on looking at student work samples and responding to reading, so writing about reading, and really looking closely at that and how we can move in that direction as a district, and helping kids not only be great readers and great writers, but be able to write about their reading, which is a whole other challenge. So many educators are looking at some goals around that and some future professional development. So that's a really great piece of work that we're beginning. We had our first all-school meeting in October. That, again, is led by our volunteer sixth grade leaders. And it was a very full agenda. We even had Wizard of Oz cast members coming to promote the Wizard of Oz performance, which is opening up to elementary students as well. So that was really exciting.
So many little beings needed.
Yes, yep, that was exciting. Our next all-school meeting is next Wednesday, and it's a regular all-school meeting, but there are times, like this month, where we incorporate some type of theme. So we will be honoring Veterans Day on our next all-school meeting. Our PTO hosts an annual Pumpkin Palooza, and beat their last year's total by a lot. I think last year was it 382? 383. And so this year was 408, five. So those were all out front, and I think they still are, many of them. So that was great. Very great turnout, as always. We've had our fire drills this fall, as well as lockdown, and we also, with some rescheduling, are going to fit in our fire safety program from our local fire department at the end of November. We just this week had the New England Percussion Ensemble come. Again, that's a PTO organized event, and they were pretty amazing. It was for our whole school, pre-K through 6. It was almost an hour long, 50 minutes maybe. And students were engaged throughout the entire program. It went from sort of actively engaged to listening appropriately, so it was a good shift back and forth. A lot of teaching about the instruments, history, going back to ancient times, and as well as sort of modern ways to use things around the house to create your own instruments. So it was a really well-rounded and exciting presentation. And last but not least, we have our annual food drive for the local food pantry coming up. The collections have begun, and we'll be doing our assembly line over to Dickinson Library on Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And that's always a good, we end up with a lot of food donated. So, thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Hello again. Just a couple quick things that I didn't get to talk about last time. I just wanted to let you know that we're moving forward with our Safe and Supportive Schools Action Plan, which I think I shared with everybody back in August or September. I'll send it out again so you can see it from the new people. That was a plan that was developed last year by our resilience team after a thorough audit of what we are doing to maintain a safe and supportive school environment at Pioneer, identifying areas where we could improve, and then making some action steps. And a lot of those action steps found their way into our school improvement plan with the social emotional learning and the school culture goals that we have in there. So we've begun, to answer a question that was asked earlier, we've begun to pilot 2 new curriculum in social emotional learning. One second step in grades 7 and 8, which is a continuation of the program that's used at the elementary level. And then the resilience team chose overcoming obstacles to pilot in the 9 through 12 grade levels. And faculty have begun working on that, and we're devoting some collaboration time on Fridays to sort of working out the kinks and rolling that out and planning together for how best to make that meaningful for our students. The second thing that started recently over the past few weeks is our faculty on other collaboration days are split into different work groups, and they're working on various things that we need to address for the school and the curriculum. We have a group working on the portfolio process to continue to improve and refine that. We have a group of faculty working on Panther Pride. We're working on school culture issues, and they've done some really nice things. Right now, if you go into our school, you'll see little sort of inspirational sayings plastered all over the school. So the school Panther Pride group is working on that. We have a group working on progress reports to try to move our families over to using our electronic grade portal to keep track of students' grades rather than issuing progress reports in between the report cards every quarter. So now 8 times a year we have to do this distribution of paper, and we're trying to cut that down and get our families more on board with using the electronic portal to monitor their students' grades. What does that one say? Oh, Science Night. We have another faculty group working on Science Night, and then lastly, we have another faculty group working on, as part of our social emotional learning initiative, to make social emotional learning resources available to families through our website and other means. So we have a group of faculty working on that. And then for upcoming events, I hope you all know that the play Diary of Anne Frank is on tonight and through the weekend. So 7 o'clock tomorrow, 7 o'clock Sunday. Is it also 2 on Sunday?
Saturday.
That's what I mean, on Saturday.
At 2
2
p.m.
p.m. and 7
p.m.
p.m. on Saturday. So Friday at 7 p.m., Saturday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. And then we'll have our, do you have a report too?
I have just a
You were going to talk about the senior?
I was, the senior luncheon,
Yeah, okay, I'll let you talk about that.
Okay,
then. Okay,
fine.
yes, go ahead, you finish up.
Okay, so a week from today, the 15th, is the senior citizen luncheon. So band and chorus perform some of their holiday songs that we've been working on since October, beginning of October, since basically for band, since the marching season has ended, we start working on our holiday tunes. Student council works serving the Thanksgiving lunch that the ladies in the cafeteria make. So they will watch the concert and then go eat lunch. It's a good day, and a lot of community service and volunteering goes on.
What time is that?
I believe it starts at 11. The concert starts at 11, and then lunch is probably at 11:45 or 12. And I also have the AD report. Just some minor points, if you guys don't mind. So this is from Gina Johnson, who could not be here tonight. She is at the semifinals boys soccer game at Holyoke, but against Westfield Tech. So if our boys win this game, they play this weekend in the finals. Just super exciting. It was a great game, super rainy. It was on Monday. It was very rainy, downpouring, cold. So yeah, that was an exciting game though. Moving on to football, they went as far as the Division 8 semifinal. And today they're playing their second to last game, including their Thanksgiving game, against Mount Greylock at Mount Greylock tonight. So they are on the bus. Let's see, and Wyatt Keith is 307 yards away from the 2,000 yards rushing milestone.
Wow.
So most likely we're crossing our fingers that in this game and the Thanksgiving game he completes that. Girls soccer made it to the first round of tournament. Super exciting, and all-star selections are still in the process of being decided, but Ryan Underwood, who is the boys varsity soccer goalie, was selected as an all-state all-star for sure. Yeah, we just found that out. And we are all looking forward to a good winter season coming up, starting the Monday after Thanksgiving, which I believe is the 26th. Yeah, things are good. And yeah.
So, well, this is a general
Okay,
question
yeah.
about Pioneer. And maybe the facilities director knows the answer more than anybody, is the electronic sign at the entrance to PVRS. How is that coming? Do we know anything?
That's one of the things we're going to talk about, I think, as part of the use of our rural aid. It's possibly a one.
Right now, it's not working, but we're actually looking into it and having an electrician come out to analyze how much repair it needs.
Sorry, Ella.
Oh, no, there's also no worries, yes.
The band has sold fruit in the past. Are they
Yes.
doing that again? And
No, unfortunately,
they
the
aren't.
fruits
Oh,
and
no.
fudge fundraiser is not going to happen this year.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually really disappointing.
Where am I getting grapefruits?
I know, that's where I got them too.
Is there a
but
mattress sale?
There is a mattress sale. So November 17th, which is a Saturday, I guess it's this upcoming weekend, there we will be selling mattresses out of the Pioneer Gym that we get.
What are you selling?
Mattresses.
That's what I thought I heard.
New ones.
We got,
Off the truck.
yeah.
Off
In
the
the dark.
train, off the train. You know, they go through Bernardston and Northfield quite regularly.
So they're at a lot lower prices than you'd find at your normal mattress store.
Nice job, Ella.
Are you delivering too, Ella?
I'm not. I will not be
Are
there.
these air mattresses?
They are real bed mattresses. So, we'll see how that goes as a fundraiser for band.
And then, no grapefruit.
No grapefruit, unfortunately.
I
No
vote
fudge,
for
no
oranges and
grapefruit.
grapefruit.
I know. I did too. So I'm
right.
disappointed about it as well.
Look, we should all support them.
I've got mine, sorry. We don't need to support mattress.
Okay.
We need grapefruit, right?
Special education.
Well, that's a really hard act to follow.
Really?
And I used to think the grapefruit was hard to carry home, you know, but,
You're selling what?
yeah. Just briefly to piggyback on, it seems like everybody has a theme on social emotional learning, and I just want to put in a plug for early childhood, because they are working with the state on it's called the pyramid model on social emotional learning, and we do get a very small grant for that. We started that last year. I think Renee's here, and she's one of the chief proponents and workers in that regard. And it's vitally important that we start with these kids when they're very young. And it's, if you talk to people across the area, all the other SPED directors, early childhood directors, we're all getting a lot of 3- and 4-year-olds, kindergartners who are really dysregulated or have a lot of issues. And it's just, it's really, I don't know why. Nobody seems to know why, but it just seems to be increasing numbers at that age who have some serious issues. So we're working really hard at that because it pays off in the long run to get them now. So I just wanted to put a plug in for everybody who's working so hard at that, and it's really vital work. So, and early childhood doesn't get as much funding as it used to. Every year the state has gone down in how much money we get, but I really feel like it's very, very important that we continue to offer these programs. And maybe we'll start selling mattresses if that's what it comes to.
Maybe you could sell the grapefruit.
Or we could do pillows to go with the mattresses. Thank you.
Comforters?
Sheet sets.
All right, our superintendent's report is next. If there's no other administrator who wants to come on up, I'm looking forward to this report.
Okay, I just got an update on the game, by the way, the boys' game. Soccer is 0-0 with 8 minutes left.
That's what happened last time. That is exactly what happened last time.
The game before us went into overtime and penalty kicks, and they started 40 minutes late, so they're still going.
Oh my God. They started late?
What?
They started late this year?
Started this game late, yes.
And this is JV?
No, this is varsity. These are our semifinals.
Boys varsity and volley.
There's a girls' game, I think, before that.
I was just looking at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's exciting.
Wow.
All right, so I've had the opportunity to spend some time at the various schools and in the classrooms, where it's really I like to be. So I wanted to spend a little time tonight kind of talking about and giving you guys a little more detail about what's happening in our schools. Obviously, our accountability scores were tremendous. We scored higher than most other districts around us. So what's happening in the classroom is should really be highlighted. We have incredible teachers and staff, an incredible administration team. And when you really get into the classrooms, I just wanted to let everybody know what's happening in some of the classrooms that I spend time in. And so you just get a picture of what's going on in the various schools. So Here at Northfield in third grade, Nolan Kitfield, her students are working across all subjects. They're writing personal narrative stories, real stories from their own lives using imagery, dialogue, and spicy words to create a picture in their readers' minds. In math right now, students are learning multiplication and using equations with variables to solve word problems. Students in this class are spending some of their school day going back in time to picture this land we now call Massachusetts, making a mural of their visualization as they create the setting for a story path about the early start of our state. This afternoon, students participated in an engineering design challenge to build the tallest tower possible out of given materials as they develop a mindset that they can use all that they know to solve problems and that they can make changes to improve upon their work without feeling they have failed. So in other words, it's the engineering design that Dr. John Heffernan has been talking about. Are we preparing our students to create something, and if it's not working, being able to scrap that and have the ability to start over? Also here at Northfield in grade 1, Jen Edwards' class in first grade, students integrated math with science, writing, and reading using pumpkins. Students matched number words such as first, second, third, fourth, fifth to their matching numbers and wrote each word in the space in a song titled Five Little Pumpkins. Students' buddy read the poem after filling in the number words. They used the poem in a whole group meeting and acted out words for additional fun with fluency. This year in the classroom, first grade has a bulletin board that will be on growing throughout the school year titled Tooth Traditions from Around the World. This bulletin board idea was inspired by the book Selby B. Beeler. Their bulletin board is a world map. Each time a first grader loses a tooth, the class reads a new tradition from a country. Then the student who lost a tooth illustrates a picture of themselves following that chosen tooth tradition from this specific country. At Pearl Rose, Patricia Solomon in third and fourth grade, and I know Bob had mentioned this, they're doing a project-based learning unit on the history of Leiden. Her class has been partnering with community members on Leiden's Historical Commission to help begin Pearl Road's Elementary School's first project-based learning unit, an exploration of the history of education in Leiden, Massachusetts. Students will be challenged with the driving question, how can we find out about and share what school was like in Leiden, Mass. In the past compared to today? Students will examine historic artifacts and photos and read primary sources. They will visit one-room schoolhouse sites in our area and interview town elders to find out what education was like in Leiden in the past. The class will create an online interactive map showing the location of each of the original 5 schoolhouses of Leiden, as well as Pearl Roads Elementary. The class will write and perform stories about the school life in their town and create a then and now Google slideshow. Also in Pearl Roads, Lisa Armstrong's first and second grade are spending a lot of time teaching the rules of phonics that help children learn to read. These emergent readers are able to sound out a word that they have never been able to read before. Mrs. Armstrong teaches phonics in a variety of ways and reads with students in guided reading groups daily. Also important in first and second grade are math concepts that form the underpinnings of future math understandings. There are a lot of fun activities happening, such as the memory game, I packed my grandmother's bag, and in it I put. It is a memory game where you go through the alphabet and pick a thing to put in your grandmother's hypothetical bag. For example, I packed my grandmother's bag and in it I put an alligator or a bat, a chameleon, a dog, etc. Each student has to recite the list of what each person has said before, then add a new item. I had been a part of this. I was impressed with the class, with so many students remembering the whole list. The best one was the students for R said that one of the students said he had packed a rad dude. And the class had done the AD word family early in the day, and one of the words that came up was rad. So this just shows how it is possible to combine learning and fun, and that our teachers are making learning fun, so students invest in the idea of lifelong learning, which is one of the most important jobs we do. At Bernardston in grade 3, Jen Comiskey. Can you name the Massachusetts state cookie? State heroine, who I had to look up, was Deborah Sampson Gannett. The state fish. If not, ask a Bernardston third grader and they will surely be able to help. Ms. Comiskey's third grade class has spent the last several weeks learning all about our state and the town of Bernardston. They recently met up with Lou Atherton at the Powers Institute Bernardston Historical Society. While there, students participated in an artifact scavenger hunt. They were motivated to explore the museum and able to use teamwork and problem-solving skills. Now that they are finishing this unit, students have been given choices of how they would like to show their learning. Some are creating a terrarium with a 3-dimensional scene inside. Others are making posters that shows trees, plants, and wildlife. Finally, some are creating a detailed map that have major cities and points of interest labeled, which can be viewed on their classroom blog. In Renee's Keir's kindergarten class in Bernardston, they've been busy building their positive learning community. Ms. Keir is very excited and encouraged at the opportunity to work this year with her adjustment counselor, Andrea Franz, to bring a new curriculum called Feeling Buddies into the classroom. This program supports and encourages students to identify feelings and to self-regulate when they find themselves upset or overwhelmed by strong feelings. This program further offers students healthy ways to respond and problem solve towards positive outcomes for themselves and their peers, a skill that will prove invaluable to them now and in the future. Ms. Keir has seen the benefits in her classroom already and continues to marvel at the many lessons young children have to teach us. In Warwick, Lynn Hansel, her 5th and 6th grades at Warwick, dug deeper into literacy elements with 2 separate projects. They did an interactive read-aloud of Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt, and together they created a bulletin board to illustrate setting, main characters, main events, rising action, climax, falling action, imagery, and symbolism. They followed that by watching the film of Tuck Everlasting. Each student focused on the character traits of one particular character as depicted in the book and compared and contrasted how that character was portrayed in the movie. They're just now finishing their compare and contrast essays. Tuck Everlasting will continue to be their mentor text during the year as they explore other literacy elements such as main idea, theme, and figurative language. The other literature-based project the class engaged in was a study of cause and effect and circular plot by using the book If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. Each student then wrote, illustrated, and published their own version of this story, and then shared with them their shared them with their reading buddies in 1st and 2nd grade. Also at Warwick, Ms. Mullins' 3rd and 4th grade classrooms have been implementing 2 exciting programs. Every Friday afternoon, the students are partnered up and given an engineering and design problem to solve. They use everyday items such as duct tape, paper towel rolls, and index cards to create items that help solve problems. Later in the year, they will expand this time to include all kinds of electronics, which are acquired through 2 Donors Choose projects, adding a technology piece to their problem solving. Last week, their Makerspace time, as this is called, focused on fall challenges such as creating a way to efficiently clean up leaves and making something that could transport vast amounts of candy on Halloween night. The students loved working together to design and plan, create, test, adjust, retest, and reflect. This week, they are also launching a Genius Hour in their classroom. Genius Hour is based on Google's Passion Project, where employees were given 20% of the time to focus on ideas and projects that were meaningful to them. Genius Hour in 3rd and 4th grade will allow students to develop research and informational writing skills as well as their presentation skills. They'll spend 1 hour a week for about 12 weeks developing and researching essential questions based on topics of student choice, and after the research project is complete, every student will be an expert on their topic and will be able to teach others what they have learned. I cannot wait to see what the students develop in this class, and their learning will be showcased sometime this spring. At Pioneer in the middle school, the teachers have implemented a cutting-edge social-emotional learning curriculum called Second Step during advisory on Mondays. As described by the Committee of Children's Second Step Middle School program is a first-of-its-kind SEL curriculum that's modern, web-based, and responsive to the needs of today's students and educators. It's underpinned by the latest research in adolescent brain development and social psychology and has been refined through multiple pilot programs in classrooms across the country. The result is a program that doesn't just help kids do better in school, it helps them to do better in life. The program's lessons are projected from a web-based portal and address 4 key areas of SEL, as it's called: mindsets and goals, values and friendships, thoughts, emotions and decisions, and serious peer conflict. Each unit's lessons are designed specifically for each grade and allows for the use of the same language and continuity among the middle school. In 9th and 10th grade, Ms. Brennan's English students are reading a variety of novels examining the prevalent themes and issues and comparing them to the issues relevant to society today. This allows students to make historical and motivational connections to issues prevalent in today's society, those of which are discussed across the curriculum. Also in English, students are reading and learning about the authors Steinbeck, Dickens, and Orwell, just to name a few, to see how these great authors allow students the opportunity to understand, analyze, and evaluate language and style in a way different from their own. This allows students to go beyond their level of comfort and provide authenticity to characters, story, and setting. As they delve into literature, their individual experiences and curiosities will take them on many wonderful and exciting adventures. The high school math teachers at Pioneer are using the integrated Math 1, 2, and 3 programs, which utilize the Core Plus Mathematics program. Core Plus math programs take an inquiry-based approach to learning math, whereby students complete mathematical investigations and apply inquiry-based skills to learn mathematics. 10th grade high school math program is also utilizing online learning software programs to enhance and supplement normal classroom teaching approaches. During the school year, students will utilize Khan Academy to complete online problem set modulars and manipulate algebraic and geometric objects digitally on a computer. Khan Academy helps to familiarize students with some of the basics of digital assessments and assignments. For example, MCAS 2.0 is computerized and will have questions that deal with click and drag technology or selecting multiple right answers from a list of answers, and the way these questions are now asked are new to high school math students taking the 10th grade math MCAS. Khan Academy helps familiarize students with these types of questions. They also use an online assessment tool that pre-assesses students with respect to MCAS questions and learning standards. An item analysis is performed of questions that are scored correct and incorrect with respect to each learning standard. The data gathered from this online assessment is used to inform instructional practice that will target learning standards that need additional remediation. Additionally, students use computer-based algebra systems to further enhance learning opportunities for students. Students use the computer algebra system to model and graph data that helps students contextualize their math learning. This provides ample experience in solving application problems and ensuring that students understand the meanings of different parts of the modeling functions. And finally, 10th grade math students will complete several STEAM, math/art projects throughout the year. This further enhances student learning by making meaningful connections between disciplines of math and art. This allows students to express themselves in unique ways as math students and to explore more applications of math that do not require more structured instruction. The makerspace design teacher position has now been filled by Lissy Fine. Lissy has years of experience as a graphic designer, developer, 3D modeler, project manager, and production artist, creating museum exhibits, logos, print collateral, websites, motion graphics, interactive multimedia, and working with software and digital tools. She founded Hoyo Codes and has been teaching coding, robotics, and many creative computing workshops that we are excited she's joining us at Pioneer. So that's going to be tremendous. High school robotics club started today at Pioneer, and middle school robotics club will be starting next week. Those are two programs that I had mentioned early on when I first became superintendent, and things, honestly, that I was told by members of the department ed I shouldn't be mentioning because they could never happen. They said, you're in no financial situation to be mentioning this stuff. Don't talk about it publicly. It's never going to happen. And 2 months later, we're here. So,
Thank you, Jim.
Special education. I know I've been talking to Chris McGuire. We've been working with the Collaborative for Educational Services and exploring possibilities of bringing special ed programs to our district. CES, the collaborative, is working to partner with Franklin County School District to assist in decreasing tuition and transportation costs for students by creating programs. The lead district, which we are trying to become the lead district and house these programs, will house the programs and tuition in students sent from any district in the region. These programs will use teachers from the lead district, our district, and the collaborative will provide clinical and classroom support and transitional services, as well as training for accepting teachers as students transition back to the districts. This could potentially bring in several $100,000 for each program that we have. GCC, over the past 2 weeks, I've met with GCC, the Dean of Studies, and the new president of the college, Eve Salomon Fernandez. Our conversations are focused around our district's vision moving forward. This would include all of our schools, elementary and the middle and high school, and ways we might partner to work with GCC to distinguish our district from others and provide exciting opportunities for our students and staff. We are just in the initial stages of exploring possibilities of how this might look and what would it entail, and how this partnership would benefit all students in our schools. Last night, I was invited by Eve to attend the GCC Foundation's 50th annual meeting. There are around 250 invited guests, including many local state representatives. Paul Mark was there, Many of the business owners, presidents of companies, of the biggest businesses in Western Mass were there, as well as members of the community. She talked about what the World Economic Forum calls the fourth industrial revolution. And this is something I had a discussion with her on last week when I initially met with her. Artificial intelligence, automation, ubiquitous mobile supercomputing, intelligent robots, self-driving cars, neurotechnological brain enhancements, genetic editing, the evidence of dramatic change is all around us. It's happening at tremendous speed. We are in a technological revolution, and it's moving extremely fast. So this revolution brings with it exciting possibilities, new solutions to global challenges, and employment opportunities for jobs that have yet to be invented. At the same time, it comes with the potential for technological unemployment that drives downward pressure on income security and social agency while society adapts to the new normal. Combined with climate change and rapid global population growth, this century is the most challenging that our species has ever faced. Governments, educators, and parents alike must ask the question about how they can prepare present and future generations to thrive in this transforming world. And I think that's what we're trying to move toward as a district. How can we prepare our students for the world that's changing? Because schools are not going to look like this in 10, 15, 20 years from now. Okay, so one question that was asked by one of the members in her discussion was, how are you going to work with area schools? Because she had mentioned working with area schools, and I think it was really stemmed from our discussion the week before. And, you know, we had a conversation about, wouldn't it be wonderful in something that, you know, could possibly be done is to have all our students come out of Pioneer, or some that wanted to, with a two-year degree. So you could graduate high school, in technically you graduate GCC in May to get your high school diploma. They give you your diploma in September for GCC. So you have 2 years
That's
already.
been done. I know somebody actually received her GCC diploma 3 hours before her high school.
Right. So that's the type of thing, and there's a lot of other opportunities for our elementary schools, for Parents University at night, you know, educating parents at night, maybe going back for a degree. Different ways we can partner. There was an astronaut there in a big discussion, a conference that happened. Yeah. So trying to get more involved with GCC and offering not only our students but our staff opportunities, whether it be training, professional development, is just something we're exploring right now, because I really think it would separate us from every other district and provide our students really with kind of cutting edge things. So when she was asked this question, how she would work with like pre-K through 12 schools in the community, she started by talking about the declining demographics. Even for her as a new president, you know, her numbers are down. It's everywhere. It's just not our district. Everybody's in trouble. But one thing how she responded was, she looked at me and she said, you know, I had an interesting conversation with this new superintendent at Pioneer last week. And we talked, you know, and we shared our vision of how education was going to look over the next few years, where his district has been. She said, I've followed that district for the past year, and I know the situation that we're in, but they're not in there anymore. They're not in that situation. And I like where that district's moving. In fact, I told him, I'm relocating my family from New Jersey. I have children. I think her son's 12, her daughter's 9. That I want to buy a house in one of their towns because I want my kids to go to one of their schools because where they're moving and where they're headed and where they're progressing to. So I thought that was telling. I mean, that's in front of 250, you know, business owners. And then after that, you know, she concluded her talk is I had people coming up to me asking me about that. How can we get involved? Like different business owners. She had mentioned us reaching out to companies and trying to form these partnerships with companies. So she thought our district was moving in the right direction, so much so that she wants to send her own children to one of our schools, which I thought was very telling and great for our school district to have that heard on that stage.
Yes, very much so.
And so, you know, just to,
No, I was just going to say thank you for doing that, because that was amazing.
Yeah, but I think it's really a tribute to, like, you know, the staff that we have here and what's being done in our schools. I think that gets lost a little bit in all the talk about the budget and the other things. So I really wanted to kind of focus tonight on why we're all here, and it's really for the students, like what's happening in the classrooms, gives you a little picture. If you live in Warwick, what's happening in Leiden and Bernardston and Northfield and other classrooms. And, you know, I know Jean had mentioned the Diary of Anne Frank productions tonight and over this weekend. They do a phenomenal job. They're also going to be performing that during the school day, so all of our students, 7th through 12th graders, can watch it and experience it. And I think that'll be really inspirational for hopefully some of them to get involved. I know last year at Phantom of the Opera, I brought my own daughters to the show. It was the first time they'd seen a production like that. I personally was blown away. I never thought a high school production could be that good, and it was watching professionals. And the best thing about that night was as soon as it ended, my daughters looked at me and said, "Dad, I want to be a part of that. How can I get involved? I want to be in a show like that." And that to me was incredible. Like just that they were introduced to that and inspired them to want to go out, you know, and be in a show. So this year they have an opportunity at school. There's a show, and they're both, you know, signing up for it, which I think is great. So that's something that's good that's happening at Pioneer as far as, you know, some of our students showcasing their talent. We know the boys soccer's in semifinals. We know Ryan's got the state championship. Wyatt Keith is unbelievable. He's a leading rusher in the state of Massachusetts. Right now, he's about, I think, 172nd in the entire country of any high school running back.
Wow. Is he a senior?
He's a senior this year, and he's going to most likely break 2,000 yards this season, which is unbelievable. So we've had really successful alumni. Yeah. We know that. We know the schools are strong academically. The administration's incredible. The students that we have are incredible. And that's what I really want to focus on is how can we then now take that to the next level. And I'm really excited for this school committee, and I'm thankful for the old school committees. I think they did a really good job, and I've met with most all of them. I know we still have to meet, and for the new members I'll be setting up meetings, but I think they shared a lot of this vision and trying to take our district to the next level and offer things to our students, opportunities, and that's what we want to give them is opportunities, you know, in life to be successful. And so I just really wanted to kind of bring this back to the students a little bit and share about what's happening in a little more detail in our schools. So
that's excellent. Thank you very much. I have a question. On the Leiden 3rd and 4th grade history project they're on for the education in Leiden?
Yes.
That part of it?
Oh,
it's pretty interesting because there's even one of the selectmen in town that has gone through the process and has talked about how it was in the one-room schoolhouse. Whose turn was it to bring wood in? And those kinds of things where they didn't have a heating system. It was a wood stove. And he's very good selectman, and he's spoken about the number of times he stood in the corner. So they're going to have fun with that project.
Yeah, it is good. A lot of good stuff is happening in the classrooms.
I'd like to move that we hear from the food service. I just met the
Yeah,
food service
I
director.
have that
We'll hear from
lined up,
him
too.
before we get into the financials.
Is he on the agenda?
The lunch?
Yeah,
lunch report.
Lunch report.
I'll second.
Lunch report.
It's
Okay,
part
all
of the
those in
financials really
favor
anyway, so
of
go
moving
first.
the lunch report up to the director of finance report and combining them? Is that what we're doing? Okay.
Well, yes and no.
Is there a second?
Is there a
Yes,
second?
second.
I had second.
Oh, you did,
Oh,
okay,
yes,
I didn't
okay.
hear it first.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Okay. So we're moving him up.
You've been moved up.
Oh, thank God, thank you.
Before you,
No, he's gonna go now.
First, okay. So tell us all your name again, please.
Rob Haley.
Rob Haley?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Rob.
Can you spell your last name?
Haley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nicely.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. So I have the August and September reports in front of you. I don't have October's. I'm still working on that right now. But with the help of Tanya, we're going to be going and making an actual budget so we can see what we are spending per year and month going forward. I'm not sure I guess I would be asking all of you, I have equipment that we're not utilizing also, I would like to sell. We have a kettle steam pot, holds, I guess it can cook about 50 pounds of spaghetti that we don't use here. We have a salad bar, we have a slicer, things that we could get rid of that we don't use. With permission, I would like to sell those. Yeah.
Is the salad, is it an extra salad bar?
Yeah, it's an extra salad bar.
Oh,
It's like a
it's an extra
display.
one,
Yeah, it's like a
okay.
display case they don't use. It's just being into the equipment.
Rob, I think you should develop a list and get it before the
Yes.
next agenda.
Okay. Okay. Great. I can do that.
I'm kind of wondering, looking at August, how we have any revenue. I notice we don't have any expenses. What's the nature of some of the revenue we are reporting? Right now, we're in the black, major league.
So the way that the school lunch happens, and
Right.
just to kind of, this is kind of new to Rob and myself, and I talked to Pam about this, is your expenses really that you're showing are paid the following month relate to what you did the prior month because of the way our warrant cycle happens. Does that make sense?
No.
So when we pay something in September, they're bills from August. So the expenses in September are really for lunches served the month prior. But the way that we're required to report to the state is what happened in the month. That we actually, the cash that went out and the cash that came in for the school lunch.
So state law says we keep accrual books and report.
We don't keep, we only do modified accrual at year end for audit purposes.
What's the whole purchase order system?
So that we know that we have money set aside for things that we have. I mean, it's approval and management. But essentially, you know, we are in the black at this point, and I think Rob is kind of on the same page with me on this. If we continue to spend, and he's been doing a phenomenal job of managing our food costs and going out to the schools on a daily basis and monitoring the women that are working in the school lunch and trying to, you know, if there's extra, reutilize that in another lunch so that we're decreasing and managing our food costs better than we probably have in the past. So I think that attributes to a lot of what we're seeing so far this year. But ideally, what would happen is if we continue to have the $7,000 or $8,000 in revenue a month in the black, that will offset those summer salaries that became an issue at the end of the year. So I think that's going to be part of our projection when we work together, and maybe we'll be able to report what those summer salaries look like. So even though we might have a $17,000 positive right now, we can kind of have that summer salary accrual below it so we can see when we essentially break even or what that will look like when that happens. Yes.
So I'm still perplexed. In August, we didn't serve any lunches, or we served very few lunches.
Right, but
and we have
people pay up.
$8,000 in revenue.
People pay up front for a lot.
Yeah, you can go online and prepay all your meals. Yeah, you can go online.
Real money. We got obligations against it.
So there's prepaid liability, or, you know, a prepaid lunch that does offset that. But that's typically just a case in usually August and September in the beginning of the year, and then that kind of flattens out the rest of the year.
Not time for a party.
Yeah.
But we definitely are going to be putting a projection together. I will put it in the system as a budget per se, just so we can have something to monitor against. But we've got 2 months now to look at what the true expenses were, the true invoices for those months to kind of see where we can go.
I have a question. When a student's parents, for whatever reason, don't pay a food bill, we're not going to tell that student they can't eat.
No,
because
we can't do that, yeah.
So what is offered to them as a meal? Is it the least expensive meal available for the day, or does that student have a choice?
They get the regular meal. We can't really be, like, you can only have this because it's kind of, what's the right word?
Discrimination.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. What I've been doing with the people that have not been paying, I've been sending letters weekly of what they owe and the reports I get off of line of because they'll go into negative, and at a certain point, it just stops. So we have to keep it on paper, basically, and I send notices, and this is what you owe, this is what's happening, but we can't deny a child food.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I will say at the end of last year, there was a very small balance of lunches that hadn't been paid when the year
Yeah,
had
I
actually ended out. It was like $120 across the district.
Right.
So it's
I gotta say the
not-
high
it's
school
not a
is,
huge
they're on
problem.
point, like the kids, if they just scan their cards, and if they're negative, immediately the next day they come with the money, or they go online and pay for it. Having a hard time with the Bernardston school, getting parents to pay, but slowly but surely it's working out.
I can't make that online system work.
Okay.
It's
The
not
Pay
very
School
user-friendly,
Central?
but-
Okay. What do you?
It just tells me that my kids don't exist.
Okay, I don't know about that then. I can look that up for you.
I've seen them.
I'm fairly certain they exist.
She's feeding
You were
them,
there. Yeah, yeah,
because you
yeah.
guys don't recognize they exist.
What's the last name?
12.
I can look that up for you.
All right, thank you.
They don't exist.
So I'm
But
really
I've
looking
seen
forward
them.
to that budget.
Yeah.
I really want to be able to see.
Yes.
This is.
Monthly.
This
Yeah.
is where we're taking in money, and this is what we're spending money on, and that whole anticipating the summer.
That's amazing.
Really want to see all that.
Can you remind us, what is our pricing for a meal?
Let's say for an adult, it's $4.25. For a kid, they're so different in school. For reduced, it's 40 cents for, what do you pay for? $3.25 for a kid's meal, yeah.
$3.25 for kids and 65 cents for milk.
Yes, 65 cents for milk.
And all the increased pricing is part of our main meeting too.
And now, and in the high school right now, we are offering water or milk, so they can pick bottled water. The first day we offered them seltzer water, and that was a disaster. They just, the junior high kids, just the junior high kids, they were
It's like
shaking them
weaponized
up and
water.
opening them up.
Well, somebody
So-
should have just gone out and gotten some lessons and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, what was the highlight on the other end of the spectrum?
Yeah, really.
Yeah. They were so happy, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we need to keep moving.
All right, thank you.
But we have a quick news update.
I have a quick sports update.
I got
0-0 in double overtime, boys soccer.
And I just
Wyatt Keith broke 2,000 rushing yards.
And
they won.
They won 56-6 against Mount Whitelock.
56
So they counted them. Yeah.
So does this mean they go to state now?
No, so that's confusing. They didn't win the semifinal game. This is just an extra game, so they're done for the season until they play Greenfield on Thanksgiving. But it's just exciting that they won their last game.
And now I get to listen to my boring financial reports. So exciting. I am
Talk
going to
about
try to make
mattresses
this
some more.
brief, just because my voice is not at its best.
Can I ask you, are you doing appearances part 5, or are you doing financial reporting? You're on there twice, it seems.
So I will do
it
my
all.
financial reports first, and then I'll do my update
thank you.
to follow, just to make things easier in the order in the packet that you're looking at. You guys all have your school committee expenditure report. I hope you guys will all notice that all of the line items except for the one item, I don't see the information transfer in this packet, but the only line item other than telephones, which all the telephone lines are a little over right now because we just switched over communications providers, so as the new PO is on there and the old one comes off, that'll all net out, so we should see that coming into the positive probably by the next school committee meeting, as those adjustments are made. The only other one is employee separation costs. Again, part of revising this budget and working on it when we met before was being able to get as much accurate information as I could to do that budget. Last week when our payroll administrator was inputting the upcoming retirements into the system, I noticed that this item went in the negative. The missing piece of that was our pairs also get a retirement incentive, but when I was provided the information and the emails and the communication to budget for that employee separation cost, the paras were not in there. That was actually $5,000, but it was offset by a decreased vacation amount that was paid out to Pam because she actually took that during some of the time she would have been employed. So anyways, it netted out to $1,700. There's not a vote that needs to happen because it's within the central office administration, but I will be moving that $1,700 from our other available funds line to offset that. And then everything is, but you'll notice, you know, all the people are where they belong, all the expenses are where they belong now. Everything is fairly clean, and like I said, the telephone should clean itself up. Next meeting.
I have a comment.
Sure.
Thank you for labeling each page, and thank you for numbering each page.
It's the system that actually does that.
You know, it's actually having today's date on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's tomorrow's date, actually.
We do tomorrow's date because the check is going.
Oh, it isn't tomorrow? Checks go out on
So,
Friday.
We do it because the checks are actually dated on Friday, and that's when they actually get mailed out, so that's why the reports are done on Friday. To follow up with that, you'll notice that your categorical report actually has a small graph at the bottom.
Yep.
I know one of the things that David had brought up at a prior meeting, and we did discuss at the last meeting when you weren't present, David, was why some of the things were not encumbered. So what I did is I put this graph together, so you'll see the unencumbered piece. This didn't really copy well, but the darker part at the top is our unencumbered piece. I have printed out backup and I'm doing the research to find out, you know, one of the big ones that we have unencumbered is like our tech annual renewals and stuff. John Heffernan is working on trying to figure out what all those annual renewals are in his new position as tech director so that we can get the POs in the system to encumber for that. And the only other one that has, you know, a large balance is the health and life insurance, and that's because we have in our budget for extra plans in the event that we have additional people come on. So that won't be fully encumbered unless when we hire a new person, like our new makerspace design person is an additional staff member that will be taking health insurance. So I hope that visual is helpful. On the other side of this, I kind of did this in preparation so that the towns and the school committee can kind of start thinking about the visions that John and the administration have been talking about, as well as what our budget really looks like. I know there's a huge misconception with the changeover in administration on how much our district actually spends on administration, but if you look, our central office total is 4.7% of the entire budget. So that's your administrative staff that takes care of the entire district. But once again, you know, you notice your PVRS supplies, elementary school supplies, and tech total, which are your student supplies essentially for learning, only add up to like 3.5%.
Yeah.
So that's something that we just want to keep in mind going into budget season. And I just think this is a nice visual for everyone to kind of really
Very
see
much,
where the
yeah.
budget lies. It's not always easy for everyone to just look at a spreadsheet and look at the numbers, and you know, some people are visual learners, and it's nice to kind of have this medium. So at each meeting, I'll try to kind of provide a different medium of giving you guys this information and, you know, take your feedback so that going, you know, hopefully we can figure out what's best for everybody. But like this is just kind of a one-time thing where I wanted you guys to see visually where our budget lies in FY19 after the revision. You know, we're in good shape. We're monitoring the expenses. Brenda and I work very closely, so anytime there's a one-off or an issue, she always comes to me and talks to me about it, and we try to get things resolved pretty quick. If you look at your revenue, yes, sure.
Could you explain the item tuition only one? What's that mean?
That's kind of so under the categories, for the new school committee members, the school committee that existed in total before you guys, and I don't know how far back this goes, had requested that we report by category because that's how this school committee in their policies votes transfers across. So this tuition only one, this is our charter and choice tuition that actually gets charged against our chapter 70. So this is a number we have absolutely no control over. The state takes it off of our chapter 70, but it's an expense. So it's like the only one there. It's just a one
It's a way to account it.
Yeah. it's a way-
Okay, so it's not tuition for one person.
No. It's just how so essentially,
That was a little
this
scary.
is the report that you guys get that doesn't come from the system.
Okay.
And as we talked about earlier, because our chart of accounts isn't necessarily coded to where I can just pull out athletics is Fund 3000 or whatever, I throw it into Excel. I link it up to a main sheet that I did that every account is labeled a specific category. So each time I just drop it in there, subtotal it, and it's done. Those were just my names for them, but it's only one line item that's actually in that tuition line, and that's our charter and choice offset from the state.
Thank you.
Tommy?
Charter and choice.
Under
and
the
all that.
SPED total,
Yep.
that's a total of everything, including what we pay for students that we
Yes.
send out.
Yep.
Can that be
Broken out.
divided?
Well, it's a category for SPED, so if you look at your expense reports, you'll see that broken out.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just wondering, and you're welcome to tell me that this is completely insane. As we move into sort of the budget and we're looking at all of it, do you think it'd be possible for you to sort of do sub pie charts for some of these big ticket categories?
I could do a pie chart for each category so that it would be broken out into
Right, so take
what's
the,
included
yeah, so
in
take
that
the,
category.
the 4.7% central
Yeah.
office and then break that out
Yeah.
to sub pie chart.
And that would essentially be what's on your expenditure report.
Yeah.
But we could certainly look at
I just
departments by.
think that that would be tremendously helpful for people to see when they're looking at where our money is actually going.
A nice
So this
visual.
is like, I think it is a really nice visual for people to actually
And
break
some
it
of the
down.
lines, like elementary salaries, I would break that out maybe
By
by
school.
school. So
Yeah.
there would be different breakouts depending
Yeah.
on, because
Depending
there
on the
are some
category.
specific to salaries or admin. So
Absolutely.
Admin's just gonna be your principal and her related expenses, so
Right.
to speak. But I can
We
try
have
to
a
do
long
that.
road of sort of all coming to understand all the finances well together, but I need to move us along.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fine. But those recommendations.
That's like a future thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
recommendations
Yeah.
are
I'm just
definitely
throwing it out
taken,
there.
so, and feel free to email me if you have any other.
Sure thing.
I just have a quick couple updates. We already touched on this already. Our overseer, Rick Kingsley, is in place. He is previously employed by DOR and was a member of a number of control boards, so he's been in this position before. He was recommended by Jay Sullivan. He came in and worked with me for a better part of the day last Wednesday on Halloween. I think that was last week, maybe the week before, because I was sick last week. Anyways, so we had a really good, we put in a full work day. I got him a bunch of information that he requested, and he's going to be working in office and remotely, based, with the reports and stuff that we provide. And he will be meeting with Jay Sullivan, Mary Jane Handy, and Ruth Hirsch, who is our regional representative, next week to kind of take the information he's gathered, sit with them, and kind of put a plan together for how this oversight is going to be structured. So that's where we are right now with the oversight. I have scheduled to go out to each of our 4 towns to have initial conversations about affordability for the next year's budget, and kind of touching on the baseline projections that the HART committee's consultants have put together as a guidance for that. We were awarded rural aid of $92,593. $92,593. Myself, John, and the administration will be working and hopefully be able to come to the next school committee meeting with a suggestion of items to utilize those funds for. So we've been kind of having conversations and working on that. Some of the ideas floating around are one-to-one initiatives, the art and music program, some of our technological needs that really have been lacking. And as most of you know, Warwick was without a server for a number of days last week. So we're collaboratively looking at what our immediate needs are and how to use that. Even though the idea of the rural aid is to consolidate and make efficiencies, the money does not have to be used as such. For those, we do have to submit a plan, but like I said, thankfully, our HEART committee is, what they're doing right now facilitates that information to the state for us, so. She already talked about the fact that the budget piece is the next piece on the regional agreement, so I will actually be working with MAC in the next few weeks on that. And I've been working with the Franklin Regional Business Managers Group on putting together our transportation bid for the next 5 years. So we're almost ready to submit that to council for review before that goes out. And I think that's pretty much it for now.
Okay, thank you,
So
Tanya, for
my
all your
voice.
good work on our behalf.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, so it is almost 10. We have old business and curriculum personnel subcommittee report to get to. Is the old business Vernon tuition and administrative attendance at meetings? Like,
The Vernon tuition just needs to be voted on because we passed on that last time.
and you went back and researched it and we hadn't voted?
And it had not been voted.
Okay. So is that quick?
The Vermont rate was actually given to all you guys at the last meeting. I didn't actually bring it with me, but it's $15,618. That was set by the state of Vermont last February, and that is what I used to actually build the revenue budget, because I did not know that, one, it needed to be voted, nor that it had not been voted at that point.
Okay, so what are we voting, to accept the tuition
accept
rate?
the Vermont
Tuition
tuition rate.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of accepting that tuition rate?
Sorry.
Thank you, Tanya. Okay,
Contain yourself.
check.
Forgot about that.
Administrative attendance at meetings. Jim, do you want to come back to that?
Do I what?
Do you want to come back to that now? That was on the last one and got moved to this.
Yeah, if we can do it quickly. I'm looking at the clock, forgive me. Last time I was here, and I'm hoping that we can streamline these meetings. I see a lot of new faces, and I'm really happy to see them, and yet we can't seem to keep it under 3.5 hours. So I just think it's selfish of me, I'm just talking about me, to require the administrators to come to these meetings and sit through them, because they have really important jobs to do, and we can get information from them by way of email, or we could go visit them at the school if we want to. So I brought that up, and I brought that up the last time, and I said, everybody go home, think about it, debate it with your partners, your cats, your dogs, whatever, but please don't come back here and beat it to death. So if we can do that, that would be great, if we could just, so that's my spiel.
Is that a motion of some kind, Jim?
Yeah.
Second it.
No, there was no motion.
We haven't had this chance to discuss that.
Well, the
That's
motion
what
is that we not
So do you want to make a
require,
motion? What's
Yeah.
your motion?
that we not require the administrators to attend these meetings.
I second that.
Okay, so discussion.
And David and I are on the same page, so we,
better really
it may
think
never
this
happen
over.
again. Deal with it.
Robin.
Okay, I have two thoughts. Thought one, we always leave citizens' comments on the budget, whether or not we know any citizens are going to show up and comment. I mean, on the agenda. So, I mean, I don't see any reason to take, I would say even if we decide to do this, we should leave it on the agenda. Should people have something that they want to come and tell us about?
Okay.
And the second thought is that we did this once before,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
committee as a group decided they hated it.
Exactly.
That's what I was remembering. David?
Well, I don't even think we did it. I think we just decided we didn't want to do it.
No.
But I would
No,
say,
we
you know,
did it.
if there's-
Tried it.
if there's a reason for somebody to be here, they should be here. It just shouldn't be every month. This is a huge amount of money sitting here, not doing much, really. I'll do my homework. I'll read your report. You don't have, the principals don't have to be at every
Good.
meeting.
Jeannie and then Kristen?
I got-
And Pat? Okay.
And I think I had broached this the last time we talked about it. Once a calendar year, we meet at each of the schools. It would be nice, certainly, if the administrator for that particular school be present at that meeting. So in other words, today would have been Megan's turn because we were in Northfield. Because they also go back and, I'm assuming, report it to your other administrators if they weren't here. That way, everyone would know what the requirements were, and as far as meeting at Pioneer, maybe they could come up with a system where they took turns so that it wouldn't be Jean Bacon meeting those other months of the year.
Okay.
Pat was,
Pat?
go ahead.
Yep.
Oh, okay. We did try that before, and we tried it for several months, and at the end, we felt like we were not in contact with those administrators. You can read their newsletters, you can visit their schools, but it's nice to have them here to tell us what's going on.
Okay. Kristen?
I think it's quite lovely to have them come and give us the highlights of their school. I think every month may not be necessary. I think if we were to develop some sort of calendar system, whether it was every other month, every third month, we wouldn't be removing that opportunity for them to highlight and showcase what's going on in the schools and maybe not lose that contact and information. But also I understand it is a late night. We have a lot of business to attend to. And that does take up some time on the agenda, so.
Okay, Sharon?
Yeah, in what Pat said, we did try it for several months, and we found that we felt fractured and disconnected from all the schools, even with all the communications, with the newsletters and special notices going out or whatever. There was still a level of fracture that, or not miscommunication, but absent communication, that we felt that it was a lot more personal to have them here at a meeting. And it's part of their job.
Okay. Abby? I know, Robin, you've spoken once, so I'm going to go to Abby.
So, one, I'd like to hear what the principals think about it. And, well, and even, I don't know if you can speak for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a long night, but it is part of my job, and I probably would love to be home in my pajamas right now, but the reality is that I think there's a lot of important business that happens here, and so I'm either going to be here or I'm going to be watching at home, but I think the disadvantage of not being here is that there are sometimes questions that come up, and certainly as we get into budget season, which is right around the corner, there's a lot of information that I think needs to take place. I think it's kind to consider that sometimes there are conflicts, and sometimes for whatever reason one of us might not be able to make it, and so being forgiving about that I think is appreciated. But for me, my goal is to be here and be an active participant and making sure that you're hearing correct information and being able to ask questions as needed, and that I'm getting the same as well as an administrator. If time is the issue and we want to maybe limit I don't think our reports are very long, but maybe we could just limit them to 2 items or something like that, if that feels like that's the issue. But that,
Okay, I know Robin wanted to talk. Are you wanting to jump in and do something here?
I think we can vote now.
No.
All right,
Why?
Robin.
Because I am yielding my seat to Ella, who had something to say, but felt like she didn't have the authority to speak.
Well, I just was wondering if it's about, wasting a night sitting here for 3 hours, can't it just be moved up in the agenda to maybe after citizens' comments, so that administrators have the option to go home if that's what they wanted to do, or stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the motion is to not require principals to be here.
That's an important word.
There's been a lot of discussion about the value of having administrators here for certain people on the committee. And there's been a suggestion to make it more palatable by just making sure they're up near citizens' comments or something near the beginning. And if they can't or don't want to stay, they can leave, right? So, the vote is to take away the requirement.
Can I amend the motion?
You didn't make the motion.
Yeah, you can offer an amendment.
I can amend it. You can amend it. Yeah. I'd like to say, why don't we move it up on, keep them coming every month, but move it up on the agenda. So that if they.
Rather than amend it, would you agree that we could just have this vote and then we could take up your idea? I'd like to see an up or down vote on
Well,
Jim's idea.
I'd like to amend it, so.
Okay, I'll vote against your amendment.
Well, gee, thanks.
Okay, so,
So could you finish the motion to amend?
yeah,
please?
so you've put a motion out to amend to just move the reporting for the principals to the beginning of the meeting.
Keep it on the agenda, but have it at the beginning of the meeting to get, like Ella was saying, give them the option of, they'll make their presentation and then they can either stay or leave.
So the motion is now going to be that we are,
But are we?
Keeping it on the agenda.
but
But
Jim's
what
motion
about
is
the
to not
requirement?
require principals to come to our meetings.
And that's a really important word, require.
It feels like a different thing than moving it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, require them to be
Yeah,
here. That's
yeah.
it.
You want to require
Require
them
them
to
to
be
be here and move it up on the agenda.
so that's a whole different motion. It's like a whole different motion.
No.
Yeah, that's a whole different
I don't
motion.
think that works.
Right. I think we need, you
I'm gonna
need to
beat my head
withdraw
on the
that
table.
because it's,
And it'll be okay.
You usually do,
Hasn't
go
been
ahead.
seconded, so you don't
okay,
have
all
first.
right,
So we need to vote on.
all right, so let's vote on the motion. Jim, can you read it back to us, Ann, just so we're clear?
The motion was to not require administrators to attend the monthly school committee meetings.
Okay. All
Somebody
those,
seconded it, didn't
That
they?
was seconded by Dave Young.
yes, it's already set. Yeah, all those in favor of not requiring principals to come to our meeting, please raise your hand.
All right, so keep them up there.
That's Robin, David, and Jim, right?
Okay.
Okay, so that does not pass, right? Unless people are abstaining,
leave
but all
it the way
those
it
not
is. I
in
don't
favor
care.
of requiring,
So opposed?
of,
Who's opposed?
so who's opposed to not requiring the principals to come to our meetings?
So, drawing a blank on some of the names.
It's not a roll call.
No, I know, but you've asked that that be included.
I know, but you
Yeah.
could just say, has anybody abstained? You know who voted against it.
Well,
And
that's-
Just let her
tomorrow
do
you
her
can figure
business.
out this.
Okay.
I'm abstaining.
All right,
All
so we
right,
got.
now, does someone want to make another motion related to this
Abstaining is
topic?
Jean.
I abstained.
Yeah.
Sharon?
I'd like to require the principals and administrators to be here, monthly meetings, and have their reports moved up on the agenda to maybe the third item, if that's.
So citizens' comments or review of the minutes and then reports from the administration?
Yes.
I'm like first.
Okay, so we have a motion.
second
Does anyone want to second that?
I did.
Pat seconds it. Okay, do we need to discuss that, or are we ready to just vote on that?
I'm not a member of the school committee, but I would think it would be in good practice and whatever to move appearances as a whole up to citizens' comments, because we have people traveling
Okay,
like.
we need to get this
No,
done.
we need-
Let's
yeah.
finish this vote right now. All right, does anybody have any more discussion they want to do about moving the principals up to after the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of moving the
Well, yeah,
principals?
I do. We should check and see if we have a prescribed agenda. A lot of organizations do, set in concrete in the district agreement. Is there
We
is there
do
an agenda?
have- we
Or
do
we have a
have-
policy that says this is our pro forma agenda?
Yeah, we do have that, and maybe that's something policy needs to think about.
All right, so for
We do
now,
have-
right, because we need to be functional in the coming months, we can go to policy for that, but we don't even have a policy committee right now.
But
So-
you are.
We'll just have to
will.
vote it out of order until we can do it formally.
If it doesn't have a formal order, can we vote to put it in a place it makes sense to us right now?
You were going to do it a minute ago, what's the difference?
Let's just do it, all right? If you are in
No, I was going to take it
favor,
away.
all right? So we're going to vote to put our administrators' appearances right after our minutes. Everybody that's in favor of that, please raise your hand. All right, and we'll deal with the details of that later if we have to. All right? Just
And
get
do,
functional.
yeah.
All right, sorry to cut you off, Tanya. I'm
No,
really
that's
trying
okay.
to, and I just,
One other thing is we need to put a spot for Ella. So we need
For a
to put-
report from-
We need to put, on the agenda, we need to put a student report, and that has not been on here.
okay.
It's rarely on there, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a big deal, it doesn't
Yeah, yeah.
bother me at all, but it's
Yeah,
just.
it's not gonna stop Ella.
Good.
All right.
No,
so
my
I'm still
son
here.
was political, majoring in political science.
Admin
About 5 years
and,
ago.
let's put it with the student report, admin and
Yeah.
student reports.
Okay, that would be great.
And then Tanya has suggested that we put appearances there as well, at the
It's,
beginning.
it's
So-
almost one and the same, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
We often
specify
move it
a
up there
little bit.
anyway.
We
because
do.
We do have people in the
So
crowd.
do.
just put it there.
So do
I'd
we
like
want-
to just move those, let's try just those two first, would be nice.
You know, I'm just thinking down the road, like.
All right, so let's finish our
Right.
agenda. We need to go on
Subcommittee?
to,
Personnel.
there are no changes, so
Yes.
subcommittee reports.
Didn't you say you hired a Miss Fine?
She hasn't started yet.
Yeah, she hasn't started yet, but she's accepted the job. It's the makerspace
Next month.
position.
So put it-
That
it'll
was
be on
John
for next
Casey's
time.
position.
Next
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
So are we now down to subcommittee reports?
We are,
Thank you.
yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, okay, this is the last piece of work for tonight. The Curriculum Personnel Subcommittee met recently to do two things. One was to revisit the school resource officer process in the district, and the other was to get back to the Dean of Students job description that was sent back in October to Curriculum and Personnel. I'm going to go, with your permission, to the job description first. So, do you want to talk about that,
Well,
Sharon?
I just want to make a motion that we accept that job description. We've dealt with this before, and we had,
All right, so the crux of the matter was, people were concerned that the person was reporting to the superintendent and not to the principal. So John discussed with the committee at length why that job is a district-wide job. So the Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee voted to approve the job description with the superintendent as the supervisor of that person in place, and we're bringing it to you for a vote. So that's what's happening right now. So I want to, does anybody want to make a motion?
I made
You
a
made a
motion
motion?
to accept
To
that.
accept it, okay,
I'll
and it was
second
seconded by Pat. Okay, now we can discuss. Jeannie?
I want to know, as the Dean of Students at the high school, how does that make it a district-wide position?
7 through 12.
Well,
That's
she-
all at the high
Yeah,
school.
she serves as a
So let's let
district-wide
John
liaison
explain.
for students, parents, community. She can help with 504 meetings and scheduling that for principals. So it's not like she's just based at one school. She would have flexibility to then work within the district.
So are there 504 coordinators for each school or not?
The principals do that now. It'd be a way to relieve some of that from them.
And how do the principals feel about that?
I'm not comfortable speaking for everybody.
How do you,
So we have a superintendent that is saying that this is how he wants this position to work in our district. And I would like to call the vote if there aren't more discussion or questions. It's late. All right?
Okay,
All right, all those in favor of approving this job description as it's written here today? Okay.
Okay.
You got it? Okay. Opposed? Anybody abstaining? No? Okay. SRO.
so I guess it passes?
It passes, yeah. So the SRO. So, the minutes that are included with your packet, just want to just help you orient to the papers you have in front of you. Document some of our past work on trying to address some of our concerns about the SRO process in the district. The most important one that the Curriculum and Personnel Committee, I'm talking because I'm the chair, well, I was the chair. We had voted in August of 2000, let me just find my file, here we go. So we had voted in August of 2000, let me just find it before I set the date.
The last
The
vote.
last one,
But it
August of
wasn't in the mail
2017.
packet, it was
right.
So this is what the paper looks like. It has a barred in section right on it. If you open it up to page 3,
I didn't get that.
the barred section at the top, the bottom bar, it says, O'Reilly McRae moved that the committee revisit the job description, the roles and funding methods of the SRO prior to the next school year. It was seconded by Fontaine. Some discussion followed regarding the inclusion of the towns and the Northfield Police Department in the process. It was also noted C&P should do a review and bring a recommendation to the full committee. That was voted in favor by the committee. So all the C&P is trying to do is recognize that vote and bring it back to C&P. That, coupled with the fact that in October, the Attorney General's office released an update on the SRO for districts, and this SRO MOU recommended document talks about how to choose an SRO and the process for districts, and it talks about addressing the special needs of regional groups, so that what the Curriculum and Personnel Committee is wanting to bring back to the school committee is that we would like to have the Curriculum and Personnel Committee take this on and address the need for a group to look at the new MOU and bring it to the committee for a vote. In the past, the MOU was developed and signed by the Chief of Police in Northfield and the superintendent without the involvement of the CMP or the school committee until after the fact. So we have been recommended from the Attorney General's office to have a different kind of process. And some of us were raising concerns for a long time that this is like a new job in our district and we had not been involved in the job description development and we had questions.
Not at all.
So all we're saying is we'd like to redo the process. We're not questioning our commitment to the SRO. So I don't know if does this require a vote or we just want to get it on the C&P committee's
Get it on the
agenda,
agenda.
right? We just want to say we want this to come back to us for a vote and we want the C&P to take it on. Sharon?
You know, once we have established a new CMP committee, they will, I think, they will go ahead and draw up a new memorandum of understanding based on the research that they compile.
Right, and a new search, because the
alerts and
search
all
for the
other
person needs to
districts.
include the district.
That's right.
There's
Yeah.
also a model MOU
Yes, there is.
on the state website.
Yeah, it was
and it's
attached
quite
to
comprehensive.
this. Yeah.
Got it right
And
here.
it talks about
Yep.
regional
Yep, it does.
recommendations.
It does, yeah.
We've
So
got it
there's a
right
lot
here.
to work
Yeah.
with. There's a good jumping off point for the committee. Nobody has to make it up. Robin?
Regardless of this, I mean, when the new CNP committee is, subcommittee is formed, they can absolutely go onto the agenda, they can do all the research, work out the new memorandum, but they certainly wouldn't be involved in the search for an SRO.
No.
So what is recommended is that it be a collaborative hiring process. Yes.
Collaboration of
Yes, so that there be a committee that does the hiring.
But that would be a
includes-
committee just the same way that you would hire like an administrator.
So I don't want to go into it now. You
Superintendent,
need to
maybe?
read the document.
Right.
It's very explicit and very helpful. Okay, but it's a whole new way of doing this, okay?
Wouldn't be the CMP subcommittee.
Right, that's what I was confused by
No.
when she
No,
said that. It
no.
would-
We would draft the MOU.
So are you suggesting that we tell the police department they have to fire the person that we
No,
got working there?
it's an
So at this point, what we wanted to say was, the process in the past was for a concern for a lot of us, okay? It is
I'm
now
just-
coming from the Attorney General that it needs to be done differently, and we are wanting our committee to participate in doing it differently. Do you want to say anything more, John?
No, all districts are redoing their MOUs right now.
Right. But how does that affect an employee that's already in this district?
We don't have one right now.
So the
We're trying to fill
gentleman-
that position right now.
So the gentleman that we thought was filling that position will not be?
Right, it's vacant, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize, the last meeting, okay, sorry. I didn't realize that the gentleman that we were introduced to as coming in, or that was mentioned as coming in, was not coming in.
And the new document describes the collaboration that needs to occur for choosing a person.
The first, we had one SR, he was excellent, and then he left, and then we had another one that was equally as excellent. And that one left too, and it makes me wonder what is happening here.
Okay.
Right.
And I think we need a new memorandum
Yeah.
of understanding, and
Yep.
that's why. We've
Okay.
lost two.
All right, do we need to take any action here, or do we just want to get that out onto the,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
just wanted people's heads up? Okay, and just checking back about that? Okay, all right, 'cause we have already voted to do this, right? Now we just need to get that work done. Okay. So, yeah, the CMP committee will take it up and then come back to us. They'll review the whole MOU and
They
all
said that
that.
they had, that I was,
So, yeah,
I hate to do this, but I really need to. When you get down to good and welfare, are you there yet?
let me get back to my agenda.
Did we vote to put this?
We didn't.
We don't have to
take a
vote.
We already voted. I was just pointing out, we had already voted to revisit it.
All right.
Okay, all right. Yeah, good and welfare.
Other
business. Oh, other business. Since it's blank, I was
Well, no,
trying
but-
to jump right over it. Sorry.
It's okay to say none.
That's okay.
I'm
None.
fine with that. but
Okay,
I just-
and good and welfare, Sharon, you have?
Recently on the news, I'm sure everybody has seen the tragedies that have occurred while children are either getting on or off school buses. And I would love to see every principal in our district put out some kind of a notice that to please remind people that we have children getting on and off school buses in rural areas, and they need to be extremely careful driving. At certain times of the, always, but at certain times of the day, they need to be way more vigilant. We need to keep our children safe as they get on the buses, on and off the buses, however we can do it. Every little bit helps. Notify people and put them on
Yeah,
notice.
I would like to.
Yeah.
Principals about that?
Yeah.
I would just like to, I'd like to reiterate that my kids actually reported to me that there was an incident with their bus, that they came home very upset that somebody had passed their bus with the lights out, with the stop sign out, and children debarking.
We'll make sure we get a notice out to everybody.
Problem is, it's not necessarily the parents of the children in
Yeah.
school. You
I'm sure it
almost
was.
need
No,
to
it
do
isn't, but they need to.
You almost need to do an article in the
community-
paper or
yeah,
or a
community
community
announcement.
newsletter article or
something.
something.
But let's ask Bob Raymond here, if, as a selectman, is there a way that you can get those kinds of things in your newsletter? And each town should do that, and they should do it in this month, but probably no time, so at least in December.
So dark.
Every town needs to do it, the schools need to do it. I mean, we got to keep these kids safe.
Okay. Pat?
John, could we get you to write something and send it to each town to be included in their town newsletter?
Yeah.
That'd be
yeah, I
great.
can
That
do
way it would be a
Thank you.
consistent
Yeah.
one, and it'll be coming from you, and it
Yeah.
might have a little more clout than Joe Blow
Yeah.
doing.
Oh, no!
It's no problem.
Okay,
Oh, no!
that'd be great.
What? What's
Soccer
on now?
update, they just lost.
Oh!
They went into double overtime with penalty kicks. The other team won by 1.
Oh,
So sorry, I didn't mean to, it's a very important subject.
That's like
I'm sorry, I
getting
didn't mean to
A-.
interrupt.
That's-
All right.
That's important.
Our next
Well,
meeting.
they went
Really
very
People
far.
ready
They
to move on?
Congratulations.
Very
Okay, our
proud
next
of 'em.
meeting is Thursday, December 13th. But don't forget, there's a forum which on December 5th, which is a combined school committee, park committee
Right. 7 o'clock
forum,
cafeteria.
6:30
Committees and select.
or 7. Didn't,
6:30?
I don't know.
6:30, they said.
Yeah, 6:30 was what the Heart Committee folks that were here said.
December 5th is
December
6:30.
5th at the Pioneer cafeteria.
December 13th is 7 o'clock.
December 5th.
Next meeting.
Next meeting is December 13th, 7 o'clock in the Pioneer Library.
And November
Hey,
19th is the next part.
November 19th is the next Heart Committee meeting, 6:30 in Northfield.
I won't be there. I can't hear a thing in that town hall.
Okay, I think we're all before.
All right.
Okay.
I make a motion
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, golly. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sue.